Hey, Billy, pass me the worm. We're going fishing. Not going fishing for a little fish. We're going fishing for the body of Christ. I think I caught one. Whoop. Look at that. I think I got one. Whoop. Let's go fishing. Let's go fishing. How you guys all doing out there? I hope you're doing well. All right, so let's see. Let's get this party started. We were dealing with technical difficulties earlier. Hopefully they all pan out as we talk about, the end of the world and everything else. Here's my bro, Dr. B. How you doing, my bro?
Am I on?
You're on. We're live.
And we're back.
Second time.
Hallelujah. Can you hear me too?
I can hear you. You can hear me.
I can hear you. This is fantastic. Technology.
We're all dealing with it all here right now.
All right. Let me try something. I hope I don't lose you.
Okay. He's trying something out, folks.
Okay. Am I still there?
You're still here. Your screen's a bit frozen, but that usually works itself out.
Yeah. Okay. I tried to go look at it through the channel so I could bypass the chat, but that didn't work.
That's okay. So he's working.
All right, we're here.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody.
Yeah. See you in the clouds. Go, Jesus, go.
See you in the clouds.
Oh yeah. So
Make
we can
sure
probably
and get your new Rapture mug. Come, Jesus, come. And in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, this is a specially designed cup that in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, after we get raptured, it says, "Go, Jesus, go!" Make sure to order yours by the dozen.
That's right. Yeah, I got them on my Zazzle thing. If you guys want to Go Jesus Go mug or whatever. Okay, so we can probably talk for literally 5 to 7 hours. We're probably not going to talk for 5 to 7 hours, but we probably could.
We definitely could, as we saw last night. Just having a quick little intro about this. It's like, okay, we better cut this.
Yeah, we were like, okay, I gotta go. But one more thing, and so I don't know. We talked for a good hour last night, it seemed. But so we're gonna just review a lot of things that we said. We're gonna add some more detail. We're gonna take a step back and look at the whole larger 7,000-year plan in the stars. As Barry has some pictures here, we got about 30 pictures to share from Barry. We've got we're looking at the year count in general. We're looking at the season. We're gonna bounce all over the place. Look at the stars. I've got this video called, what did I call it? The Man-Child and His Story. And why don't I start there, and we'll have a little conversation about that, and then we can bounce into some of the things that you wanted to share. I'm going to show the stars on the screen, and this is our perfect picture. That, in my opinion, I think that this is the rapture picture that we are wanting to be observing.
When I'm ready.
And I'm just going to check my volume here. Yep, volume's good. Okay.
All right. Can you hear me too? Can I still talk?
Oh, yeah.
I just want to say, we think the rapture might happen at the second Passover.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So,
yep.
This is what we're going to explain. And this is the alignment. This is what the sun, moon, and stars are telling us at this monumental date. And again, we're looking at a harvest. You see my harvest shirt. All right, continue. Good man.
All right. So now we're looking at this whole weekend in general, May 5th through the 8th, more or less, give or take. So we've got Jupiter, and let's just go back in time. And I got this big mouse to help. Maybe that'll help you see things. But let's go back to the Revelation 12 sign, and we're going to focus on Jupiter. And so we've got this big sign of Jupiter, a birth. Jupiter goes into retrograde in Virgo. But check it out.
That's a good idea.
Jupiter also goes to Sagittarius here at the end of 2019. But what's interesting about Sagittarius is it's in Sagittarius right over what's called Corona Australis at the end of 2019, when it all basically started to happen. Okay, you see that constellation right there?
Yes. We got to really hit this one because this is huge. So at the end of 2019, right before 2020, when something big happened, the man-child was highlighting the corona in the sky. All right, is everybody's jaw open, or did you miss that? Okay, right before we had a pandemic of corona, the man-child was in conjunction with the corona, and the rider on the white horse, which we know is going to represent the false man of peace, the one to bring the answers. So that is just so sweet.
And so, and not only that, we have a bit of a conjunction with the moon, the sun, and Jupiter in Sagittarius in and around the same time that it all started. This is right around our Christmas date, December 25th, 26th, give or take. There was a bit of a conjunction with Jupiter, the moon, and the sun in the head of Sagittarius. So what I'm getting at here is Jupiter not only started the real official watch of this watch community in 2017, but now it's telling a story of when this whole world went into this whole corona business together. and so wouldn't it make a lot of logical sense to follow Jupiter after that and to see if it tells you another story for a time such as this? And it sure does. Let's just hop over to 23.
Let me see it again.
And let's hop over to our suspected date here. And there it is in Pisces. And Pisces represents the church. And we've been talking about this story a lot. But we'll get back to this in the video a lot. So let's just go to 2030, our potential second coming time frame. And of course,
look at mine.
You're what?
Here we go.
With green?
No, I got the live time right over our faces.
Are you all right over there, Dr. B?
Yeah. Can you move where our faces are? Can you move those anywhere?
Yeah.
Like up or down, or there you go. Because my live timestamp was over the top of it.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, I can't see you. I don't know what's going on.
Okay,
All
so
right.
this is better for you.
Okay.
All right. So so we know that we're looking at 2023 as our rapture scenario, and this picture as a rapture scenario. So now what we do is we want to take a look at 2030, and the end of 2030, Jupiter again comes out of the womb. And at the end of 2030, around the second, our suspected second coming, Jupiter's in Libra and it's in Scorpius. And it reminds us of 1 Corinthians 15:55. Oh, death, where is your sting? Well, you're right. And then we have Venus in Sagittarius, probably right around Hanukkah, give or take. Christ being the ruler for the millennial reign. Jupiter, oh, death, where's your sting? And the sun in Ephesians, the champion. Okay, so the bottom line here is Jupiter is telling the entire story. Jupiter is telling the story from 2017 all the way to the second coming. And so here we are in the most fascinating picture that I've ever seen in the stars. It's in the fish in Pisces. So we'll go back to there, and then I'll show you one more time, and then we'll get on with something else here. But it's right around, the 5th through the 8th. Where is it? Where'd we go? There it is.
There you go.
There it is. Okay.
All right. So let me just reiterate what you just said there.
Perfect.
The man-child is in the place for the rapture, for the birth, because there's going to be 2 children born. One child is born before she travailed, before she went into labor. Who has heard such a thing? So she is delivered of a man-child that is caught up. Then at the end of travail, at the end of 7 years of tribulation, there's another child. So Jupiter is right back there in the womb of Virgo in 2030. Exactly what we would hope to see at the end of the tribulation. And then, as you were showing, it lines up for Jesus, the story of the millennial reign of the perfect Christ, the true rider on the white horse.
Is perfecto. And Isaiah, what is it, 66 verse 7, I believe, is, well, let me get the passage, which is what you just said. So let's see here. Isaiah 66 verse 7, I believe, is the verse. Yeah. Before she travailed, she brought forth. Before her pain came, she was delivered of a man child. So we're supposed to be looking for something that resembles a man child, and wouldn't you know it, Jupiter certainly fits the bill. And it's perfecto. And I shared some videos on how fish procreate, and you could,
That was
the,
cool.
the
The
stars
timing
are
of
like,
that.
it's so cool, right? Like the stars are kind of like, we have to use our creativity, just like in music, you're trying to be creative with what you're doing. God created music, he created art, and he's got art in the skies. That is his artwork. Psalm 19. What is it? Verse 1, bro? What's Psalm 19 verse 1?
Let's go there, because I think sometimes the things we know so well we gloss over, and this is an absolute, a law of God's universe, and this is what we're saying, and this is the linchpin of our whole understanding of this.
What verse is it?
It's Psalm 19 verses 1 through 4. So the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament sheweth his handiwork. So the sun, moon, and stars, the constellation, and the wandering planets are known, or the planets are known as wandering stars. They declare his glory. Day unto day they utter his speech. That means every day you can look in the sun, moon, and stars, and it's saying something. Okay, that's what we're trying to get you to key into. This is how God made it. This is how he instructed us. So day unto day it utters speech, night unto night it sheweth knowledge. And it goes to every language because it's sign language. So everybody on earth is seeing this. And we that have been studying it, we don't expect the whole world to understand this, but there are people that have been led to this understanding, this teaching, and we've studied it. And the Lord said there's going to be a child born and caught up. The Lord himself showed us who the man-child was with the Revelation 12 sign. By having Jupiter, Jupiter represents Christ because it's the king planet, it's striped, and it's pierced, and it has a crown, so it definitely represents Jesus. But what are we? We are the body of Christ. So Jesus ascended up, but in the book of Revelation, it says the child was caught up. So where's the child been? He's been on a long journey from Virgo all the way over to the exact path of the rapture. And he is represented by Jupiter now lining up in this perfect path. So this is why we're focused on this. These alignments, when they happen on such critical dates, that increases the significance. And again, this is a speech. According to God, he says, this is a sentence. What do you think that sentence says? Well, we look at it and we're like, well, there's the man-child. Wow, he's in the cord of the caught up rapture fish. There's the door. I learned that the lamb was the door. Oh, I learned that the son is also like the bridegroom. So all we're doing is we're telling the story that he taught us. But you can't suddenly look at this and say, well, now that doesn't mean anything, because the Lord himself said, this declares a sentence every day, and there's knowledge in it every night. And sometimes the story's not that interesting. It's like, oh, the man-child's making his way, making his way, making his way. So that was the story for like 5 years. But now this story just got escalated to fever pitch. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, that's a big story. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Quite honestly, this picture for me, it trumps any day of the year. Like this picture for me is, in my opinion, is the rapture sign. At this point, it's so good.
I like how you said finish line.
Yeah.
You named that the finish line, and it's so perfect because we've been running a race. What are we taught? Run the race to the end. He who runs to win. And you run to cross. What do you do? How do you end every race? You cross the finish line.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we've identified. Yes, Jupiter is the man-child. That's us. That's the church. He's at the sign of the rapture. And we're gonna go over this. We're gonna solidify, number one, that we're on the right timing, and number two, that we understand these constellations. and that this is the path.
Let's do the gospel in the stars.
Okay. So, any more on that before we move to the precession?
I'll slide in an encouraging verse. Therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us lay aside every weight and the sin which so easily ensnares us, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us, looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and has sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. That verse is talking about the race. There's other verses in the Bible talking about that that we brought up before in other live streams. But this is certainly what a beautiful picture. And of course, all the alignments with the King Charles stuff, which we probably won't get into on this video, but it's just perfect timing for everything. Do you want me to show you some pictures that you had wanted to present?
Yes. If you could go to that first one, that first set of 20, that's about the precession of the equinoxes.
Procession of the equinoxes. Let me see if I can get it. Okay.
Precession.
Precession. Now it might. Did you want me to get the? I'll show you.
The one with the word. Yeah, there it is.
Okay. That one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So can I see your phone real quick? Okay. So I'm gonna read just a little bit. In astronomy, axial precession. I'm going to turn down my volume. Okay. In astronomy, axial precession is a gravity-induced, slow and continuous change in the orientation of the astronomical body's rotational axis. So you look at the axis, look down at the picture of the Earth there. You see the white arrow showing the direction of rotation, and the red arrow is showing the pole or the axis. Okay. So in the absence of precession, the astronomical body would be in axial parallelism. Okay. In other words, paralyzed. Otherwise, in one position, which we don't have. Okay. In particular, precession can refer to the gravitational shift in the orientation of the Earth's axis around the rotation cycle, which is approximately, get this, 26,000 years. So I know that sounds a little bit confusing, but you're going to get this in a minute. So number one, it takes 26,000 years for it to make one complete rotation of precession.
Don't wait for that.
Okay. Secondly, if you look down when this was discovered, it was in the 2nd century BC by Hipparchus, the astronomer Hipparchus. Okay. So Josephus was in the 1st century BC. So he may or may not have understood this, but this is why he said that the lamb or the sun should be in the lamb at the time of Passover. Turn my volume down. All the way. How's that? I still hear an echo.
I can turn my volume down. That might be the echo problem.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So go to the next picture, please.
Okay.
That should be, yeah, that one. Okay, so this is a simple mathematical picture that explains how to figure out precession. So I want you guys to take notes. Just write that down real quick. Just jot down a quick diagram of that. Okay, next one.
Next slide.
Yes. There you go. Okay, so that's what it looks like. So over time, as the Earth is spinning around the axis is also moving slightly. That makes that cone. Okay, so the next one. All right. So this one shows exactly why we are now at what is called the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Okay, so the equinox has been moving for the past 6,000 years, and every 2,000 years, it goes to the next constellation. All right. So
we're coming to the end
of the age of Pisces, which is the age of the church.
2,000 years ago,
it was at the age of Aries, or the Lamb. 2,000 years before that, it was at the bull, Taurus. Okay, next picture. So now you go to the first one of those. Yeah. No, not that one. How do we get rid of the bad echo? Should I use a microphone?
Are they saying that there's an echo?
Yeah, we're getting in the chat bad echo.
All right. Well, let me do one more thing. I'll put on some headphones. See if that helps.
We will figure this out.
All right. Let's see if that helps.
All right. Does that help? It sounds like I'm. See, I can still hear myself.
Now, what you might have to do is turn your speakers down in your room, but I don't hear an echo on my end.
Then I can't hear myself. Oh, can I still hear Aaron though?
Well, I don't know. You can try and turn down your room speakers a little bit and see what works.
Hold on. Got an idea. Take over. Can you see him?
Turn down your volume.
Echo is double. Okay, so they're just saying it's on Barry's end, it looks like. Because I got headphones in, so now there shouldn't be any echo now at this point. While you're doing that, I'll show you something that I was going to talk about, and I'll hide this on the screen. All right, let me get this up. This is now Joseph, the man who buried Jesus. Okay, Joseph from Arimathea.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. I only have one pair of headphones that has a speaker.
All right.
So, is this working?
For me, it is, yes. And
Is the echo gone?
I don't have volume.
Because I don't hear an echo anymore. Okay, somebody said, no more echo. Tracy, thank you.
all right, thank you, guys.
Ryan Black said better. Julie said better. Abba's girl. Hey, we might as well do a little hello. Hello, Crimson, Kathy, Daniel, Paul, Kristen, Sandra, Bells, Lisa. Man, I'm out of breath. I had to run to the east wing of the house. It's really far. Or I'm really old. Okay.
All right,
All
and
right,
then let us know if our volume is balanced when we get talking. But
Yeah.
that's good.
Okay, are we good on that?
Looks like we are.
Good start. Good. Start over. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So we'll start over from the picture of the equinox precession again.
Okay, we start over. Right here.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the mathematical. You wouldn't believe it. Started echoing on me again. What happened? How's that?
It's good for me.
These guys. Now I got about a 2-second delay echo. Did I do?
Are you watching the stream on another device?
Anything? Okay. I say okay, and then there it is again. Can anybody else hear the slideshow causing the echo?
The slideshow's causing the echo? Oh, okay.
Mute the mic.
The slideshow is causing the echo. I see. It's my fault then. It's my fault.
How's that?
It's my fault. That I know what's going on.
The slideshow was causing it.
Yeah. Let me try again, okay? It's me. It's me. I know what's going on.
Do you have a lot of apps open on your phone?
I don't know.
No, it's me. It's me. It's me.
Okay, Aaron says it's him. He gets it. He knows what's going on. And my
Okay.
echo's gone. Thank you for whoever said turn off my mic.
Okay, so what I did was I'm sharing the screen, but I turned off the audio, so you shouldn't be able to hear an echo at this point. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. I'm so sorry, everybody. Thank you for the worst 5 minutes ever of a live stream. Hopefully we got this organized. That's good. All right.
I hope so.
So let's get back to
Sounds good now.
take 3.
Okay. All right, go to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, and so again, the Earth spins around an axis, but that axis is slowly moving around over 26,000 years, and it will make that cone up in the sky. Okay, go to the next one. All right, so every 2,000 years, a different constellation is highlighted by the sun and by the equinox. And this is how God is telling his story. Let's go to the next one.
Now, do you want to read that thing again, or?
In the 2nd century BC, an astronomer, Hippocrates, discovered this, that the pole makes this slight rotation. So I'll explain it more as we get through the picture.
Okay. And so we got these 3 here.
So now the first stellarium picture. No, down below. Yeah.
Okay. So do you want to go?
Yeah,
to
it
these
should
ones?
be. It should be the one right after the Aquarius thing that we just showed. Yeah. Right
Okay,
there.
this one.
That one should be, if they're in the right order. Yep, that's it. Okay, so this is the church in 2023, and this is right at Resurrection Day, and we see that the sun is in Pisces. Okay, move to the next one. And we are in the age of the church after the lamb was slaughtered, after Jesus paid the sacrifice. He ended the age of the lamb and started the age of the church. The church was always known as fish. The early church was persecuted and hunted down and killed and arrested and beaten and everything else. So they developed this little sign. When two would meet, a Christian would make a kind of semicircle on the ground with a stick. And if the other person was a Christian, he would also complete the sign to make the fish. And of course, we see Jesus Christ, God's Son and Savior, is that Greek word for fish.
Ichthos. Yes.
Ichthos. Perfect. So now let's go back to, so now you'll be at the next one.
30.
The time of Jesus should be that one. Yeah. So now this is 30 AD. This is the age of Aries. This would have gone on for 2,000 years. And the sun was in Aries at Passover, the way it should be. But the equinox moves another constellation every 2,000 years. So it's impossible for the sun to be in the same place 2,000 years apart. Okay, so the theory was that we should keep moving the sun back to Aries to call that Passover. And this is why this is wrong, because God created the sun and the equinox to continue telling his story. Okay, this is a living word, a living story written in the sky. Okay, let's go to the next one. And this is just reiterating.
So this is that one, and then, okay.
Yeah, that one. That Jesus is the Lamb of God. So this is the age of the Lamb. Okay, go to the next one. We're going to drop 2,000 years back further. This is the time of the Exodus. So now you see this is negative 1444. So 1444 BC. This is the date of the Exodus. This is when Moses was involved in bringing them out. So who do we see? The sun is highlighting the ox. So the ox represents the father, the head, the lead. Who was operating at this dispensation? This was God the Father was bringing them out of Egypt by a strong arm, by a strong ox. So this is where we would expect in this age the sun to be at Passover, at the ox. Okay, go to the next one. So the first letter of the Hebrew alphabet is the Aleph, which is a picture of the ox, and it is the Father. Go to the next one. And there we see the Aleph, first letter is the Abba Father, Yahweh, the headship, the lead, the strength, the power. And remember, Moses, during the end of this dispensation, destroyed the golden calf. Okay? So God is telling his story of Father being that work that brings forth the Son, the age of Aries. Okay, next one. So now we're going to go back another 2,000 years to the creation date. And that's, you see how it says negative 3971. So that's 3971 BC. And that is the time that Adam fell. This is right at creation and during the years that Adam fell. So what do we see? We see the sun in Gemini. And the story of Gemini is the immortal brother and the mortal brother appointed to die. So what happened with Adam? We had an immortal, he was created immortal, and the Lord said, don't eat of that tree or you will surely die. So he became mortal, appointed to death. And as most of you probably know, the names from Adam to Noah spell out the gospel of Jesus Christ. But here's the first part. Man is appointed mortal sorrow. So God has created the universe and created the earth to go around the sun and tell his story at the perfect time. But not only that, he has the ability to cause this story to evolve as we go through the 6,000 years. And he starts with Adam saying how man is going to become mortal and be appointed sorrow. And then we're going further on. This is the next one. Adam is spelled with those three Hebrew letters, Aleph, Dalet, Mem, the ox, the door, and the waters. So what was God saying is the ox will open the door to the waters. So we go from Adam at creation, man falling, and then the ox brings forth the door, which is Jesus Christ, the Lamb, that opens and divides the waters, which is the fish and the people. All that hidden in his story, but he highlighted it with his precession of the equinoxes. Okay, next one.
This is a very similar one.
Yeah, that was the one. That was just before I wrote in the meanings.
All right. And then we also have, looks like this one is another one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. No, you skipped some.
Okay.
Go back a little bit.
Maybe this one.
Go to, yeah. Okay. So what should we see? Now we know at rapture, we should see the sun should highlight Pisces and we should see rapture fish. This is after the 1,000-year millennial reign. This is in the year 3031 AD. What happens at the end of the millennial reign is the white throne judgment. So we go to rule and reign with Jesus Christ. We go to the Bema seat judgment. The Bema is all of our sins are wiped away and covered by Jesus Christ, and we are only judged for rewards. And we rule and reign with Jesus for 1,000 years. But after the 1,000 years, Jesus is going to bring everybody back to life that was dead. This was the second resurrection, and they will face the white throne judgment. So what do we see? Where's the equinox now? Where's Passover now? Is in the left behind fish that gets judged. Okay, this is when God is separating the good fish and the bad fish. So this is exactly what we would hope to see at the 1,000-year millennial reign. Here comes white throne judgment. What are you going to tell in your story, Lord? What's in the sun, moon, and stars? The sun is highlighting the bad fish. And then we'll go one more jump forward, another 2,000 years, to the year 444, or 4,444. And this is at Passover in this generation. Now this age is Aquarius. This is when the judgment's over. The false prophet and Satan have been loosed and then thrown into hell forever. And now we're reigning with God forever in perfect peace. And this is the age of Aquarius. So I'm hoping, well, let's see what we got. I got another couple, I think. Or maybe one more.
Well, we didn't get to this one yet. I don't know if you wanted to.
That was just a reiteration of the Adam's name.
Okay. It looks like we got to all your.
You go back down, and you were just about at it. It is right in the middle, over from that one.
Okay, yeah.
And that was just a reiteration. The heavens declare the glory of God. The firmament sheweth his handiwork, day under day. Every day it's uttering a speech. If you know how to read it, you look at it, and everybody would get the same story if they knew who the players are, if they knew what the story is. So my hope is that now we can put to rest this theory. You know, it's awesome. I love people that try to think outside the box and try to understand things that aren't established. You know, say no to the traditions of men. And that's how we find out new things, like the fact that Shavuot and Pentecost are not the same feast. And the Holy Spirit did not come down on Shavuot. If I was stuck with tradition, I never would have known that. But the idea of moving the sun to Aries all the time, it was a good idea. But now that you understand the precession of the equinox, which is a mathematical fact, it is a scientific fact, and God created the science, and God created the math, and only God could tell that story. And here's the thing. If you go to an astronomer with this story, and you tell them, and this is an atheist astronomer, and they understand precession, and you go back and you show them the last 2,000 years, oh, don't you think it's interesting that our Savior was crucified at this when the sun was in Aries? And don't you think it's interesting that Moses was bringing them out by the strength of the ox 2,000 years before that? And oh, don't you think it's interesting that my story of Adam and Eve is told in the sun, moon, and stars by the astronomy that you like to think is so scientific and apart from God? My God created that. My God is the one that wrote that story. And there's nobody in NASA that could have thought this story up, right? Or try to make this up. I mean, the conspiracy about the flat Earth and the NASA people. Yes, we know NASA lies, but that doesn't make science not real. It doesn't make the sun not set and an eclipse not happen. Okay, so all right, we understand it. So we are at the second Passover. The first Passover passed, and it told the first part of the story, and now the second Passover is telling the more exciting part of the story. And I'll get to that next part later, but does that make sense? Did we do a good job on that?
I think we did a great job. So just to sum it up, a 30-second summary would be, in Adam's time, the sun was in Gemini. 2,000 years later, in Moses' time, the sun was in Taurus. 2,000 years later, when Christ died on the cross, the sun was in Aries. 2,000 years later, when the church gets raptured, the sun, at the beginning of the year, the sun was in Pisces, and now we're in the second month of that particular year. And so basically,
and 1,000 years after that, the judgment fish, and 1,000 after that is peace and ruling and reigning with Jesus in Aquarius.
So essentially, that every 2,000 years, it bumps back every constellation. So yes, Josephus wrote down that the sun was in Aries, but that he wrote that 2,000 years ago.
Yeah. And so he
okay.
was testifying, and that's a good testimony that in the future, when we look back and we want to document when was our Lord and Savior crucified. Well, we know that it was when the equinox was in the age of Aries, and so Passover, the sun would have been the lamb. But now at Passover every year, the sun has to be in Pisces to start the year and move towards the lamb. It can't be in the lamb and then move towards Taurus. You missed it.
Abib. The word Abib comes from the strong word H24. It doesn't come from H24, but that's the strong reference. And Abib means from an unused root, meaning to be tender, green. That is a young ear of grain. Hence the name of the month, Abib or Nisan. Abib, ear, green ears of corn. So Abib means green. And in a sense, you can connect it with green barley. So a lot of people are saying, don't you guys get it? The barley's got to be ready. No, it doesn't have to be ready. It has to be green. It's got to be green. It's the month that it starts to grow.
All we need is one first fruit offering, and that's the first fully ripened piece. So Abib, in the month that starts Abib, it should all be green. And then by Passover and first fruits, there should be just a little bit ready. That center portion of the first fruits that's brought to the high priest for God. Then we have the owner's portion that'll be harvested, and the owner's portion is harvested in the second month in IR, right about the time of the second Passover.
So there's a difference between first fruits and harvest. And
exactly.
So there's a time you present the first fruits, and then you take it doesn't take 1 hour to harvest the field. It takes a while to harvest a field. But then after you've made the harvest, you get all the grains, and then you winnow the barley at one time. And it would make sense to be winnowing it in early May, which connects beautifully with the story of Boaz and Ruth. Ruth comes to Boaz, I think is Ruth chapter 3, very early in it, when
early in the barley harvest.
He's winnowing barley, and that's when she kind of comes to his feet, and it's just like the story here. So if you use this picture right here with Jupiter, picture Jupiter as Ruth in this story, and she's at the feet of Boaz, as Boaz is a representation of Christ, right? Kingsman Redeemer.
Our Kingsman Redeemer. I think Boaz means quick or fast.
Perfect. Anyway, he ends up redeeming Ruth, and she's at the feet of, in this story, she would be shown in the picture of Jupiter, and Aries would be the Boaz character, right? And so
highlighted by the sun.
But there's so many stories where there's like people fell at the feet of this and that. Just when Joshua went over the Jordan, who does he meet? He meets what is he referred to as?
Jesus, the captain of, well, it's pre-incarnate Jesus, but it's the captain of the guard.
And what is
captain of the Lord's army?
And what does Joshua do? He falls at his feet.
Yep.
Just like here, Jupiter falling at the feet, just like Ruth falling at his feet. And what does John do in the book of Revelation when he sees Jesus in Revelation 1? He falls down as if he was dead.
At his feet.
It's perfect. The theme is right here in the picture. But anyway, we want to tackle this barley thing, right?
Yes.
Okay. So should I pull up some of those pictures that you had? Those three pictures, we can just cover that real quick, and then I want to talk about the path. I want to solidify. So I think we've solidified. We know when the equinox is, and when true Passover, the sun should be in Pisces during this age. Okay, so this is just a quick blurb on the symbolism of IR, the second month, is barley. So they know they're harvesting barley during this month. And again, we are not the first fruits of the barley. We're the harvest. We're the big harvest. And you leave the corners, you leave the gleanings, and the gleanings must be killed. That's what's so exciting, is to know that God has this law that says the corners, the gleanings that are not dedicated, they must die. They must be destroyed. We covered that on a couple videos ago. But okay, next one. Now let me read while you're on this topic of first fruits. Okay, 1 Corinthians 15:23. But each one in his own order. Christ, the first fruits. Afterward, those who are Christ's at his coming. verse 24, then comes the end. And so, yeah, Christ is the first fruit of.
Christ is the first fruits, and then he'll take a group of first fruits, which is who he raptured or resurrected right after his resurrection, and he presented them to the Lord as a first fruits. Then in the tribulation, we know the 144,000 will be presented to God as a type of first fruits of the wheat. Okay, so Jesus was the first fruit of the barley, the very first, and then he was the high priest that took the first fruits of the barley. Then he came back, walked with the disciples, and he ascended up as the first fruit of the harvest of Shavuot. Again, just the first fruit of the wheat. In the tribulation, he will bring the 144,000 as a type of first fruits of the wheat. Then he'll harvest the rest of the wheat during the tribulation. So if you look at the Jewish festivals, you see where I have highlighted down there again, that during the first month you got Abib. That's when you get your first ripe stalk. Then in the second month, you make the big harvest of the barley and you winnow the barley. Then at Shavuot, it's just the very first single ripe piece of wheat. But you end up harvesting wheat for the next 3 months. Okay? And then over there, you see where I said have wine and Av. In the 5th month is when you're actually making the first new wine. The grapes are harvested a few weeks before in Tammuz, and then you have the first ripe new wine, and this is when true Pentecost is, and the Lord pours out the wine on the altar, which was pouring out the Holy Spirit on the 120 witnesses, and they became, as the witness said, drunk on new wine. So if you follow God's agricultural calendar and you follow his sun, moon, and stars, the stories match identical. Okay, next one.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now which one do you want me to go to? This one?
Yeah. All right. So there's 13 constellations, and therefore 13 paths. We're going to just look at the paths, and you all see if you agree. There's one clear rapture path that is highlighted by 2 spots. Okay, one is the beginning of the path, and 2 is the end of the path. So it's one path, but it's highlighted by 2 options. Okay.
Now you're talking about the path to Cephas right here.
To the throne. Yep.
Yeah. Now, so basically, every path is being directed into this throne room. But if you notice, this first fish is the closest out of all the 12 major constellations. So we're going to get into that. Is that right? Want me to go to slide 1?
So yeah, now each slide should be numbered. Should be like 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So the one was that's the one that kicked us off at Resurrection Day. And you see everything lined up. And there is rapture fish goes to my chains are gone, and then to Cassiopeia, the queen, the bride, sitting next to King Jesus. It's the only path that goes directly to God and tells a story of being caught up. Your chains of bondage are gone, and you're set up to be the bride and rule and reign with Christ. That's our story. Okay, next one.
Yep, number 2. All right.
So number 2, this is second Passover. And you see, because of Jesus being highlighted now as the door, and I tried to draw in a little Jupiter there, this story is still the same story. It's kind of like the end of that story, because Jupiter moved into a slightly better place. Okay, and this is IR, which is April and May.
Yeah.
Okay, next. And this is a confirmation of what we just said, because this is clearly the tribulation path. Taurus is the only constellation that goes back down towards the earth. And if you go from the throne, you go right through, there's Perseus chopping heads, what happens in tribulation. chopping heads, and there is the sword of God. He blew with his nostrils, and smoke and fire came out of his nostrils, and lit up coals, hailstones, and coals of fire. And then as you follow that, the next constellation is Eridanus, which is a river of fire with souls in it.
Oh boy.
And from the book of Daniel, it says that the river of fire proceeded from the throne of God and consumed them. So that's like hell. Okay, so Sivan, May and June, is clearly a tribulation pathway. That's not a rapture story, right?
Yeah. No, it's
If
not.
Jupiter was right at the nose of Taurus, we wouldn't say, wow, that looks like rapture.
And there's the river that Dr. B's talking about right here.
Yeah,
It's
that's
not really
Eridanus,
right
and
there.
those are little souls in there that are in torment forever. So, okay, that's not a rapture story. I would be scared if we were there.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah.
I like number
Okay.
2 the most.
Here's
ahead.
number 4. Number 4 is you got Ariga, which is the guy. He is taking people away. Again, look, he's taking people away from the throne. All right, he's not taking them up to the throne. I used to call this guy Rapture Man, but he is taking people running away, like as if people are being taken and carried away from danger. So this is in the tribulation, people will be snatched away from danger and protected for 1260 days. So this is in the month Tammuz, and this is June and July. Next. So in the month of Av, we got, the crab there represents the sheepfold, but you got a lynx on top of them and then a giraffe in the way. Again, this is not a path to God. This really, I'm not sure what this says. Next.
But I don't want to get raptured from the snakehead. I mean I do.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It doesn't really paint the nice picture of the fish, the church. So
Yeah.
Here we go. Number 6.
Number 6.
Out of order. Okay.
Okay, so now look at this. This is kind of cool. If this was standing straight up, it's like the throne goes through the bear and the young, I think is a young lion, right? And then he's the lion of the tribe of Judah. So this is an end time sign. All right, God descends his throne straight down, and he becomes the lion of the tribe of Judah that rules. This is in the month Elul. So I'm thinking this is an end time sign, end of the tribulation kind of thing. Then, of course, number 7 is your Feast of Trumpets and the Fall Feast. Now, look at what's highlighted. So we got Israel is represented by the Virgin. She brought forth the man-child that was caught up. What's her future? There's the harvest guy with the sickle in his hand. So you can expect if the players are in Virgo, sun, moon, and stars, and the appropriate planets, that's what it should look. That's what we should look for at the end of the tribulation at the harvest. Makes perfect sense, right? But it's not a rapture sign.
I like it.
And number 8. Number 8, you got the scales. You got a lot of fighting. You got Satan, and then Hercules battling the multi-serpent. You got Ophiuchus has got just that one corner of him, and then the guy down there stabbing the wolf. Looks like tribulation to me. I mean, I can't see anything in there where I would say, wow, this looks like a rapture pathway. Absolutely not. And it doesn't even lead to the throne. It leads to Satan. So that's it, Heshvan. And remember, he says, pray that your flight not be at winter around the Hanukkah. And look what's going on around the Hanukkah. Looks like war. Okay, number 9. The more trouble. We got the scorpion, and you got Hercules and Ophiuchus and Satan, and it's just more battle. And this is during the month of Kislev. Oh, I had mixed that up. Kislev is Hanukkah. The one before is Cheshvan is when the flood is. So minor detail. Sorry about that. Okay, we're almost done. Number 10. This is Tevet, November, December. And you see people fleeing and being protected. You see the eagle. They were given 2 wings of a great eagle, and they flew out into the wilderness and were protected. There's a shield of protection. and shielded from the Antichrist is represented during the tribulation by this sign. So this looks like in the middle of the tribulation, something's going to happen here, and this is where that verse would apply. Pray that your flight not be in winter, as maybe that's exactly when it is at the end of Hanukkah.
Yeah, I certainly one of my favorite midpoint scenarios would be Hanukkah, because that's what happened at Hanukkah. But we'll see how it all plays out.
And number 11, that's a very unremarkable. We got Capricornus, a microscope, a horse's head, and an itty bitty little dolphin. So anybody's guess is as good as. Oh, and look down there. We got the statue of a wooden Indian that sells cigars. I mean that's just,
over here, yeah.
I do not understand that constellation. It looks like a cigar store Indian statue. That seems kind of racist.
I'll take the fish one.
Yeah.
All
right. Adar, again, it's Aquarius. He's pouring out judgment. It's definitely not a path. It looks like stuff coming down, although we do see the edge of Pegasus, the church. But that's Adar. And then the last one is Adar 2, which is Left Behind fish and the statue of somebody's bust. I don't know if that's Shakespeare. But again, that's like judgment fish. And so I think if we were to ask 100 watchmen surveyed, what's the rapture sign? This baby is the gem. So this is the pathway. There's no doubt about it. From Pisces, the rapture fish, to Andromeda, my chains are gone, to the bride Cassiopeia and the throne. That's the throne room. And as Aaron, as you showed the other day, how Cephas and the throne is always in the northern sky, and then you showed the northern lights. Are you able to show that again with this one?
Yeah, I can show you. What I'll do is that you guys are probably familiar with the northern lights, but what I'll do is I'll just show you the general theme here. So Cephas above the horizon Cephas is always above the horizon. Whoops. Let's turn the landscape on.
Okay.
And we'll go like this. And if you notice, Cephas is always above the horizon. And so, and if Cephas is the throne room, or if the throne room is represented through Cephas, the northern lights would be, when the northern lights come on, they go over in the evening, and they would be covering Cephas. So when Ezekiel's having his vision, and also in Revelation when it's talking about you seeing rainbows in the throne room, I think these guys are actually literally seeing the northern lights in front of Cephas. So I think
I love those rainbows colors. That is so cool.
Yeah, like I showed a video or two of
It looks just like how you would expect to see it in the throne room. It's not going to be just one little rainbow. It's going to be these brilliant, beautiful colors moving in waves round about the throne.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, we could pull up a video, but I think you guys get the picture. Like, just picture rainbows flying around Cephas right here.
Yeah.
And so that's perfect. Another additional thing, we should look at this whole picture. Like, there's more to this whole story here. Should I turn that? Yeah, turn that off.
Yeah, turn that off.
We like that too. I like that. Saturn is in Aquarius on our rapture weekend. It's in perfect conjunction. Bulls could represent judgment.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Mercury, the messenger planet, right under the horns of Aries.
And remember, the horns are first and last trump.
So
at
perfect.
the last trump, we're going to be called up. There's the last trump being highlighted.
Mm-hmm. There's Uranus right in the foot of Aries. Over here, we've got Venus in the right hand of Auriga.
Auriga.
Which I think is attached to the bands of Pisces. Gemini, Mars. Okay, Thomas the twin, right?
Yeah.
Well, right around the time when Thomas would have been poking Jesus after Passover, Mars is in conjunction with Gemini right here. So, right? So, you know, again, I don't. Maybe you can give me a more accurate day count of when
Immortal
Thomas.
putting his immortality.
He's
The
like, I'm
one
not
mortal
gonna.
brother and the immortal brother.
Yeah, and so Thomas is saying, you know what? I'm not going to believe it till I see it. Okay, well, if we are saying that Passover was around the what was it around the 7th or
6,
something,
7,
right
or
around
yeah,
here,
6, 7, 8, 9.
and the suns are in the Jupiter are really declaring it, basically being in conjunction in that
Yep.
first Pisces. Well, look, Mars is telling a story too. Mars is telling us the Thomas story because a few days later, just like the story, and it says in the Bible in John 20 that he is the twin, Thomas, one of the twins. He's poking Jesus, and,
Yeah.
and it's telling the story. It's perfect.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, so what else was there? Okay, there's something called there's Esther. Esther is right here.
Oh yeah, and don't forget the Nebula 153.
Yes, I'll have to get that.
But I just saw that recently about Esther. What is Esther? A star?
Well, the Book of Esther, right? But that's
Yeah.
in.
But there's this constellation reference of Esther.
That I don't know the constellation reference. But we have Esther here, and there was another. There's another one I wanted to show. Oh yeah, Apophis. Apophis.
Office.
Apophis is right here in the Left Behind fish on our Rapture weekend as well. It's in conjunction. Everybody's freaking out about Apophis. Well, there it is.
And
And
where's the 153 Nebula?
okay, so now you can't find it on this program. So let me just see.
Or you
if
can
I
just
can,
tell us where it would be.
well,
Is it right there by Rapture Fish?
It's like right here. Let me see if I can find it here. I think I can find it. Was this the good one? Let me just see here. I don't
All
know
right.
if this-
While you're finding that, I just want to make a note. Hezekiah, which
there it
means
is.
strengthened of God. Okay, you got it.
It's right there, right where Jupiter.
Right at the band.
This is the band, and it's right there where that eclipse was.
That is just absolutely perfect. That the
Yeah.
153 fish is lined up with that band of the caught up fish.
I mean,
That's the catch. And 153, for those that don't know, is 1 + 2 + 3 all the way to 17. If you add that up, it's 153. So it's a perfect number, a perfect completion, representing a perfect rapture, complete catch, and none lost, and the net didn't break. And that in gematria, it means the sons of God.
Yeah, I was just
The
going to say.
Benai
Yeah.
Ha-Elohim.
It's perfecto. And so when Jesus said, when they caught the fish, he's basically declaring that he is God by having them catch 153.
By having them catching the Benai Ha-Elohim. It's like, I am
the man.
Cast it on the right side, and I am. So again, the first story of second Passover that was celebrated was Hezekiah, King Hezekiah, good king, and he instituted this, and he was appointed to die, and God granted him more life. He got 15 more years, and Isaiah was instructing him, what sign would you like the sundial to move backwards or forwards? And Hezekiah wanted it to move backwards. And so God stretched out the heavens a bit and the ecliptic of earth and made the year longer. And this is at the same time that Hezekiah was going to receive his 15 more years of life. And other nations have confirmed that. That's when they changed their calendars. So the guy that was first to institute the second Passover celebration corporately, Hezekiah, his name means strengthened of God, and we wait upon the Lord, be of good courage, and he shall Hezekiah us, he shall be strengthening of us. He's the guy that did second Passover. The Songs of Ascent are written about the songs of ascending, the 15 songs of ascending up to heaven, and they are written by Hezekiah for his 15 years that he got. So all that ties in together, that we are waiting and being strengthened by him, and we're looking at a second Passover that we got passed over on the first one, but wait for it, because the big harvest is actually in the second month. And this is the time when we get raptured, the earth's going to give birth to its dead, and there's going to be a great wobbling of the earth, and the time is going to go back to 360-day years. So the connection that Hezekiah was involved in all of this, and what should we see right after the rapture, is the time should go back, according to God in the book of Revelation. He starts referring to them as 360-day years again. And it happened at second Passover. So I just wanted to throw that out. We are looking, and sometimes everything looks so perfect, and you're like, it can't get any more perfect. How can this story pass? And I think that we're supposed to be understanding the story more and more each time that we hear it, which is exactly what's happening. And we understand if it's not the actual time of the rapture, it was still the story of the rapture. So this is not to place all your bets and count your money 100%. This has to be it. But this is this story that was meant to be told. And as the Proverbs say, it is the wisdom that you accumulate. This is the delight of the Father, and a wise man will not only increase in wisdom, but encourage others to enjoy learning. So that we're excited, because the story in the heavens is saying this is a rapture story, and we know how old Israel is, and we're already in overtime, right?
We're running on fumes, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So, ask me why I think it's going to be at an appointed time. Why do you think? Ask me why the rapture is going to be at an appointed time.
Why do you think it's going to be at an appointed time?
All right, I got a visual aid. Okay. So this is what Jesus did in his life. The highlights. Okay. Every single thing happened at appointed times. He's highlighting Shavuot, Hanukkah, trumpets, atonement, Passover, Pentecost, Elul, atonement again, the time you bring in the lamb, the wedding in Nisan, Hanukkah again, Sukkot again. He brings out Lazarus right before Passover. He has all the Passover signs, the unleavened bread sign, the first fruits sign. He resurrects the dead on their first fruits and presents them to the Lord. He comes back down and walks with them for 7 Sabbaths, and then he arises on Shavuot. You guys will believe me eventually. He pours out the Spirit on Pentecost. He anoints Paul on the Feast of Oil. He's going to rapture us. He's going to use one of his things. Now, this second Passover is really unique. And I think, like you were saying yesterday, Aaron, it'd make everybody happy.
It would appease the imminent crowd, because it's not technically a feast day, but it is an appointed time. Now here's the interesting thing about second Passover. Second Passover is in Numbers 9. Why did it start? Where did it come from? It came because the man was coming to Moses and saying, you know what? We want to make this right with God. If we touch a dead body, we can't do first Passover. We're supposed to wait for a certain amount of time. I think it says in Numbers 19, you got to wait 7 days or 3 days or something of that nature if you touch a dead body. And so they say, Moses, what can we do? And Moses, okay, 1 second. Let me go talk to God. I'll get back to you. And he goes, okay. I talked to God and he told me. So if you've been on a long journey, or if you touch a dead guy, second Passover is going to be on the 14th day of the second month. And this started because man came to God. God didn't say, look, guys, if you missed it, I'm making a new thing. Now, this bleeds into something else, though. Passover, when Jesus died, there was a guy named Joseph of Arimathea, and he took the dead body. He went to Pilate and said, hey, you can find this in, I think, all the Gospels. I think all the 4 Gospels have this story, because let me take the dead body and put him in the tomb. And so the funny thing is, if he has to live by the law, he can't celebrate Passover because he's dealing with the body of Christ. And so he would have celebrated second Passover because he touched.
And somebody sent me a comment that said the same would have been said for John, because John
Yeah.
would have touched the dead body. And so, yeah, and John's name means grace, and Joseph means to add to, or shall add. He shall add. I'm pretty sure about that.
Well,
That is. I mean, right there, Jesus is making provision for the people that took care of him right at that time.
it's actually very prophetic in a way, because he instituted it to really to bring strong use of it when he died on Passover, and also we've got this whole bride concept and groom concept, and Jesus has his day, and does the bride have her day a month later, just like Mother's Day and Father's Day about a month apart, that kind of concept. But I wanted to say this definition. It's Joseph of Arimathea. And what does Arimathea mean? I looked it up, and it means a lion dead to the Lord. So Joseph from a lion dead to the Lord. And if you look at the stars back in 30 AD, I'll show you. I've got the 30 AD here. I think this is it. And hopefully this is the right screen. No, it's white right now. Okay. But look, we're at the time of, or suspect the time that if he died in 30 AD, Uranus was in conjunction with Regulus right around the time that in Leo, in the lion, and Joseph from Arimathea, a lion dead to the Lord. Isn't that cool?
That is very cool. There's so much when we get up there that he's going to fill us in. Oh, and also, probably every part of the constellation was always telling an accurate story. We're just scratching the surface.
My screen's all messed up here, but Jupiter was in Pisces as well, right around that time of second Passover.
Oh yeah, I remember you showed that last time.
I'm trying to get it. Oh, there we go. So there it is.
This is the same thing 2,000 years ago. Now Jupiter takes a 19-year. Is it 19 or 12?
12-year cycle around the constellation.
I think it's a 12-year cycle. So it just so happens that Jupiter, during these last 2,000 years, has gone around there and ends up at the exact same spot. And Passover was like at the same day, April 5th in 30 AD and April 5th and 6th in 2023.
Yeah, it's perfect. So the picture on second Passover at that time is the same picture that we see at this second Passover.
Can you pull up that video?
Yeah, my phone's about.
Oh, okay. My wife's phone's about to die.
Oh, okay. You got a plug or something?
Yeah, she's plugging in.
All right. I'm going to share something else. This is from the Talmud. And, we don't take this as biblical proof, but this is something that we should certainly acknowledge. So let me see here. Okay. So this is in the Talmud, talking about 40 years leading up to the destruction of the temple in 70 AD. During the 40 years prior to the destruction of the second temple, the lot for God did not arise in the high priest's right hand at all. So that's number one. So too, the strip of crimson wool that was tied to the head of the goat that was sent to Azel did not turn white. That's number two. Number three, in the westernmost lamp of the candelabrum did not burn continually.
Show it, you just swipe up.
Number four, and the doors of the sanctuary opened by themselves
Will you be able to hear it?
as a sign that they would soon be opened by the enemies. Can you hear me still?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was.
You're making
Sorry,
your
I was talking in class.
5 minutes in the corner. But anyway, the point of what I just said was there was 4 things leading up to the destruction of the temple that happened for 40 years straight, and that's documented in the Talmud. And the big thing here is the strip of crimson wool that was tied to the head of goats did not turn white. So the story goes that the crimson wool that was tied to the goat turned white, and that would represent on the Day of Atonement, that would represent that their sins were forgiven for that year. But after Christ died, in 30 AD, the theory here is the story is that it never turned white. And so
They
this
were not
also
forgiven. And then their punishment was 40 times 7 times 7 again, which brings us to the end time of 2030.
Yes. Yes. So that's perfect. It's perfect that you brought that up because that ties into this perfect. Okay. So 40 times 49 is 1960. 70 AD plus 1960 is 2030, our suspected, second coming, end of the whole thing. So that fits like a glove. But if you want to count the Jubilees in 50-year counts, well, then you do that from 30 AD, from our suspected time year that Christ died. Well, that also brings us to 2030 because 40 times 50 is 2000.
40 exact, which is 2 days, right?
It's
Or
just
40.
perfect. If you want to use the 50, it works. If you want to use the 49, it works. It fits like a glove.
Yeah.
And then
I like that.
we've shared before the 20-30 coins. Joseph was sold for 20 coins in the Old Testament. Jesus was sold for 30 coins in the New Testament. We got a nice 20-30 match.
I want to
like it.
read a little bit of Song of Songs. Again, just a final stamp on our timing.
Can you see this okay?
This is the, I got it right here.
Okay.
But I'm going to start at chapter 2, verse 10. But again, this is the story of the rapture of the bride. So the bride yells out, "My beloved spake, he said unto me, Rise up, my love, my fair one, and come away." In this story, you're going to hear the other signs that confirm the month of Nisan. There's 10 signs, okay? And we posted that list on some of the last things that we did, but it all comes and it's all verified in the Song of Songs. So, "Come away, my love, my dove, my fair one, come away. For lo, the winter is past." That's number one sign that you're in spring. The winter's past. The rains are over and gone. Now, that doesn't mean it's not going to rain anymore. It just means the heavy winter rains are gone, which is true. Happened last month. "The flowers appear upon the earth." Okay? The flowers appear. We are in the time of life. This is the time of spring. "The time of the singing of birds comes." How long have you all around the world been hearing the birds singing out your window in the morning at 6 a.m., waking you up? "The voice of the turtle dove is heard in our land." Some of your verses may only say the voice of the turtle, but it's the turtle dove. "And they only make their song, they only speak, they're only noisy during this time of year." They're in Nisan, and that's when they're mating and courting. "So the voice of the turtle dove," another confirmation. "The fig tree putteth forth her green figs, and the vines with the tender grape give a good smell. Arise, my love, my fair one, and come away." So we know that God says the rapture is going to be at this springtime. We hit spring. We hit the Passover. We are now looking for the barley harvest, which I say the second Passover and all these things we found with the sun, moon, and star is telling this perfect story that this is the rapture story, and it's the rapture time. But I would give us even all the way up to Shavuot. Again, Shavuot is the first fruit of the wheat. So we are a barley harvest. To my knowledge, there's nothing in the Bible that said after Jesus brought the first fruits of the barley, after he was the number one, he became the high priest and presented the first fruits of the resurrected to the Father, but he never came back and harvested the whole field. So that's why I feel so strongly, and as you hear about how you harvest barley, it's gathered, it's winnowed, it's put on a big sheet, tossed in the air. The Ruach, which is the name of the Holy Spirit, blows off the chaff, and you got white pearly barley that is caught up on a white cloud. That's the story of the rapture. We will be changed in a moment, in a twinkling of an eye, by the sound of the trumpet, responding to the Holy Spirit, which blows off our chaff, we become white pearly, and we're caught up to that white sheet, which is the clouds. As God's telling us, it's a barley harvest. Then the wheat harvest, we know the 144,000 are the first fruits of the wheat. We know Jesus himself was the very first of the wheat, the first of the resurrected, the first of the new glorified body of wheat. Then he's going to take the 144,000 as the first fruits of the wheat, and then the tribulum is ground over the rest of the wheat. The harvest of wheat is the end of the world, the tribulum. And then at the very end, he gathers the fruit with the sickle. So we come to this place once again where we say, this is so perfect. How can we pass by it? And I don't know. What do you think, Aaron? I don't know how we could pass by it. I just don't think we can.
This is what I want to do. I want to play a little game with you. All right. I'm going to read you some Bible, and I want you to stop and pause me whenever you see it in the picture in the stars in this picture that we have on the screen. Okay.
Gotcha.
You just interrupt me as much as you want. For the Lord himself will descend from heaven. So
you're already seeing that lamb looking like he just come down, and the sun is highlighting him.
With a shout, with the voice of an archangel. Ain't that good? Mercury.
It's absolutely perfect.
Right under the
right under the horn. I was waiting for you to say, and the trump of God. And there's the trump of God.
And with the trumpet of God, yeah. And the dead in Christ will rise first.
In Christ.
Then
the fish, representing being brought to life and coming out.
Mm-hmm. There's the fish. One was taken, one was left. Then we who are alive and remain shall be caught up together. Caught up.
How do you catch a fish? You caught him. It's the same word.
Yeah, to meet the Lord in the air, and thus we shall always be with the Lord. Therefore, comfort one another with these words. All right, here's another question for you, which you already know the answer to. When Jesus started his ministry, did the disciples catch the fish on the first time? When he came to the fisherman? No, he didn't. But what did he say to him, Dr. B?
Cast your net on the right side.
And then they caught the fish, and so
not the wrong side, not the left.
Yeah,
those on the left are wrong.
To the left, to the left. Everybody put your box to the left.
To the right.
So anyway, so that's the first story of Christ's ministry. So the first time no catch, the second time, yeah, they got a catch. Okay, in John 21, did they catch the fish the first time they tried it, Dr. B? No. They don't catch it.
Bones say no.
No. But the second time, what did Jesus say?
Can I play?
No, I should get him involved. I should get him involved, yeah.
I told him he's not allowed to be in this one.
Well, you know what? Okay, so actually, speaking of Mr. Bones, you've been touching a dead body this whole time. In a way.
I know. That's what I always say. It's like me and Mr. Bones. We need that second Passover. All right, for all you people that don't know, Mr. Bones is not real human bone. What? You're just telling me this now? Put me back in the ground. Oh, Mr. Bones, what would I do without you? Hey, I got an idea.
Oh. Hey, you want to go fishing?
Yes.
You and me going fishing in the dark, lying on our backs, and we're counting the stars.
Hey, ain't that a country song? Look, yeah. I'm country. And also, I brought my horse. Good boy, Lightning. All right, I'm riding Lightning on the way out of here. When we go up, I'm riding Lightning.
Yeah, I.
Hey, what happened? I'm hearing myself. Is that you? Oh, my wife.
Daniel 12 and Revelation 10. It was a while ago. I did one of the live streams that I did. Okay, I'm going to read a little bit of Daniel 12 with this picture in mind. At that time, Michael shall stand up.
Mercury.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You get 2,000 points. Okay. All right. At the time, Michael shall stand up, the great prince who stands watch over the sons of your people, and there shall be a time of trouble. Uh-oh. Such as never was since there was a nation, even to that time. And at that time, your people shall be delivered, everyone who is found written in the book. And many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake, some to everlasting life, some to shame and everlasting contempt. Those who are wise shall shine like the brightness of the firmament, and those who turn many to righteousness like the stars forever and ever. How about that?
Shine bright like a diamond,
Yeah.
like a white pearly barley.
Yeah. I like it.
Yeah,
It's in the picture's right here. It's perfecto.
it really is. And so, again, I just want to reiterate that this is absolutely the sentence that the Lord said his heavens are declaring this sentence. You know, he gave us revelation and lead by the Holy Spirit to understand his word. It's like we've received a word and we are interpreting. He gave us the interpretation, those gifts of the Spirit, and we are interpreting this sentence. Any of you that have done any amount of studying can understand, yes, you are speaking the truth. You will listen, you will testify, yes, they are speaking the truth. That is the man-child, that is the bridegroom, that is the door, that is the rapture fish, that is the sword, that is the church, that is the beast, that is the restrainer. We're not trying to, get you to believe something contrived. This is just straightforward. If you know a little bit. So the Lord said, give us. He would give us that word. He would lead us by the Holy Spirit. He would tell this story. So again, this is the rapture story. Since Resurrection Day and that conjunction, the great bridegroom, the son coming out to grab the man-child, and now he's leading the way. Again, we say, "Come, Jesus, come," but then after he grabs us and he's at the lead, we say, "Go, Jesus, go!"
Mm-hmm.
And we're just like going that way straight to heaven, and we're leaving it all behind. And then 2 will be in the field, 1 will be taken, the other one will be left behind. And the wise virgins will be, the bridesmaids will be taken with the bride, but the foolish virgins will be left behind, and they'll be facing the tribulation. And the Lord gave warning to church people that would be left behind because they are not understanding, trusting in, and relying on the gospel. They're not relying on the blood of Christ. They're relying on something else, or they don't even acknowledge the blood of Christ. They just think Jesus is a guy. So, yeah, we are witnessing the rapture story. Is this another warning? Is this another warning that, okay, here it is, I'm going to rapture you, and you got a few more days? Or but I'm telling you, my heart is convinced by studying the Lord's patterns, it's going to be an appointed time. So if this passes, we hang on to what would revolve around a second Passover unleavened bread type week, which would include what you're seeing there. The true second Passover is like the 5th. Is that correct, Aaron?
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so 3 days later is when the conjunction is more perfect, representing like the resurrection, the second resurrection day.
Exactly. Right around the flood date of second
Yeah.
month, 17th day. We know that's reversed, but yeah.
And then, we just, if we're still here, we all hold tight until what would be Shavuot, which will be, I believe, June 3rd. Can you go to June 3rd and see what we see?
Yep. Let's do that.
So, we want to pay attention mostly to Jupiter, that man-child. Is the man-child going past the door? And so, the fish and the band is the perfect. But again, if it's a warning, we still could go, as long as Jupiter's in this vicinity. So is this would be Shavuot?
This is June 3rd. Yeah. That's
so
right.
now the sun is highlighting Taurus and the bull, but Jupiter is still hanging around the door. Okay, so we're not in any trouble. From my memory, when I looked at this before, Jupiter now is going to hang out at the Lamb for a whole year.
Yeah, well, let's take a look here. So this is the path of Jupiter. It just kind of hangs out there for the year 2023, and it's completely gone by. Well, let's just take a look.
I think by next Passover, it will actually pass over to the next constellation. So
Yeah.
there you are. There's next Passover.
Yeah, gone, and
Now it's in
in
Taurus.
May.
So, worst case scenario. Here's worst case scenario. Next Passover 2024, if we are still here. Ay.
Mm.
My life is great. I'm doing fine.
Yeah.
I look up for the rapture. I find all the perfect signs. It doesn't happen. I'm doing great. Excellent.
Yeah. My life is real good.
My life is real good. But
That's from
but again,
Nacho
worst case scenario, you go all the way till next year, Passover 2024. That's the second Great American Eclipse.
Yeah, and that eclipse actually happens in this area of Pisces.
Yeah, I think it's April 8th at
Yeah.
3 o'clock.
It might be April. Let's see here. Let's find out.
April 8th
I think it's actually the 10th.
at 3:30.
Let's take a look. Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
April
1500 hours.
There it is. Yeah,
There it is.
April 8th. In that first
So,
fish.
that's next Passover. And if you look around there over these days,
That wouldn't be Passover, would it? Are you sure that's Passover? That's a
I don't
new
think it's
moon.
exactly. Well, is it Passover? No. It might be the whole month before, but what we're talking about is the getting close to Nissan again, because at a conjunction 2 days later is the new sliver. So it wouldn't be Passover, but it would be the start of Nissan.
There you go. Yeah.
But if anybody wants to study this, go to this day and go forward and backwards a little bit, and you're going to see all the incredible amount of conjunctions with Uranus and Jupiter and Venus and Mercury and Venus and Jupiter and Mars and Jupiter and Saturn. I mean, next year is crazy, which I kind of hate. I wish it wasn't. But if you just watch all these planets and just click one day forward, one day forward, one day forward, you're going to see like 5 conjunctions all around this great American eclipse. And we all expect the destruction of America after this great American eclipse. Will it happen that day, or is it another warning? But it makes a perfect X going through 12 states on the 33rd parallel, going through 7 places named Salem, a 70-mile swath that was seen for 2 hours or 2 minutes and 33 seconds. Everything about that sign was so prophetic. And the end of it will be the same thing, 12 more states crossing. And at the X is like Little Egypt in southern Illinois. And then all these crazy conjunctions. So, yeah, I'm hoping that's not rapture time. But we have so much to look for right now. And again, Israel's too old. In a couple weeks, they turned 75. Abraham was 75 when he left his father's land. I don't know how God's going to supernaturally cram 7 years of tribulation into under 6, because again, they would be 80 for a whole year till the day before. But that brings us to 2030. We're in serious crunch time.
We're running on fumes, and actually, if you're going by IR5, Israel turned 75 today. Yeah,
is it today?
Well, this would be IR5, right? Because
yeah.
Right? So today-ish, Israel turned 75. But I like it because Abraham was 75 when he in Genesis 12 when he moved.
Maybe first Passover was our dress rehearsal.
Nice. My friend Earl said maybe first Passover was our dress rehearsal. which is the meaning of a holy convocation. It's a dress rehearsal. So you dress up for passing over, for being brought out, being protected. I mean, why did God make all of his dress rehearsals? So that someday the play is going to be on. It's going to be the real play. And so this is our last chance at a perfect tie it with a bow and say,
Yeah.
this was so clear. No author of confusion here.
Yeah. Because again, Israel, the whole age of Israel, but also the perfect 40-year gap between 30 AD and 70 AD. It's just, I can't see it any other way. If we're here next year, I guess we'll deal with it. But the thing is, Jesus.
I still, no matter how much longer we tarry, I still see the end of 2030, because the numbers C.J. Lovett came up with, the 7 times the 390 from the first destruction of Israel in 701 BC, that brings you to 2030, and then the 7 times 7 times 40 brings you to 20. They confirm each other, and that's exactly Ezekiel's prophecy. So 2030, absolutely, that's the end. But how much shorter can we be? Because for a legal marriage, we have to be married to him for 7 years. For us to be consecrated, we need to be in the tabernacle and not leave for 7 days, 7 years. It's we're struggling, right? I don't know. Maybe it's gonna, because God's outside of time. Maybe we get our time, but on earth, it's passing differently. We all know the thing about him shortening the time, and according to the book of Revelation, the sun and the moon shone not for a third part of it. So in other words, a day becomes 1/3 shorter, or instead of 24 hours, it's now 16 hours. So if you put together, well, in 3 years, that'd be a whole year off, but he still completed every day of the prophecy. Satan still had his 2,300 days. Everybody still had their number of days, but in the outside of time view of it, it was 1 year shorter. So now we're at that point. We already need that 1 year. We're not like, oh, if it passes, we got that one. No, we need that to even make it make sense.
Like I said, we're running on fumes.
Running on absolute fumes.
We're running on empty.
Running on. So we again, we have a good reason. We're not scraping together a half-baked idea. This is not based on one comet going by or something like that. This is a culmination of this gigantic sign, and something is bound to happen or open. Then we look at the world, and they just keep turning it up a notch. Just worldly signs have a little bit of meaning in confirming our understanding. This is just a kind of an interesting side note, but Tucker Carlson, highest rated show, just gets fired. If you guys saw the Left Behind movie, the guy Buck, who was a lot like Tucker, he got fired. He's the highest rated show, but he wouldn't shut up, and he got fired right before the rapture. Well, I guess his was right after. But just the thing with firing Tucker Carlson is, they've always let that one conservative voice be there so they could pretend like they have balance, even though the fox is guarding the hen house, so to speak. The owner of Fox is as crazy and off as you can get, but they are saying no more. So who's next? There's every conservative voice is just going to be completely gone, and we believe that when we're gone, they're going to scrub the internet, and people are not going to be able to put this together if they weren't already warned. But by us being a voice right now and trying to reach out into the world, people have seen us. You know, a lot of people mock us. Those will be the ones. Those will be the ones right after the rapture. They'll be like, this is what they were saying over and over. We just mocked them and mocked them. We told them they weren't ready. We told them they weren't prepping to make it through tribulation. And now they're gone and we missed it. So now we have to use our noodles that we saved up. We have to hide and we got to shoot some people. Oh man, I just think prepping in a way is kind of funny if you understand what the book of Revelation says.
Unless they're prepping for people that are left behind.
Oh, my wife said, unless they're prepping, leaving a bunch of stuff for the left behind people. That's very nice, very thoughtful.
Mm-hmm. But it's going to be bad.
Yeah.
Exodus.
Better get some running shoes.
Ezekiel 4 verse 6. And when you have completed them, lie again on your right side. Then you shall bear the iniquity of the house of Judah 40 days. I have laid on you a day for each year. So you brought that up. CJ Levick brought that up. Again, how many nights did it rain in Noah's flood? It was 40. How many years were they in the desert in Exodus? 40. How many days did Jesus fast in the wilderness? 40. What are some other 40s off the top of your head? There's tons.
The 40 was known as a testing period. And again, when Jesus was fasting, all of Israel was from Elul 1 till the Day of Atonement. And in between each of Moses's trips up the mountain. Okay. So he brings them out and they walk and they get to, I just want to hit this real quick before I finish that statement. Go to Exodus 12. And this is where God is telling Moses, I want you to change what we call the first month of the year. And now it's going to be Nisan. And they put blood on the door, which is the lamb's blood. And then Jesus, the lamb, is the door. And then he brings them out on Passover and unleavened bread. And then they're walking through the wilderness. The Lord splits the Red Sea to bring them out. So they have been practicing and celebrating that dress rehearsal of the Red Sea being split and them being brought across towards the Promised Land. And then in Exodus 16, I believe, he says they took their journey from Elim, and all the congregation of the children of Israel came unto the wilderness of Sin. So Elim means gods, small g gods, but L-I-M is their plural. So Elim to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month, after their departing out of the land of Egypt. So God specifically highlights the 15th day of the second month. That's second Passover.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first next date he gives after they start wandering in the wilderness. And he says they're in between Elim, gods, and Sin. Mm-hmm. And they're heading towards Mount Sinai. And everybody remembers that they get into Mount Sinai in the third month, and it's the 15th day of the third month. But if you just look a little further here, right after this, he said, well, first of all, so he's brought them this far. 10 mighty plagues, splits the Red Sea, brings them across, starts walking them towards these places. They didn't have any water, so he led them to a place that had 12 wells and 70 palm trees. And then he brings them a little further to this place of Elim. And the children of Israel said unto him, would to God we would have died at the hand of the Lord in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, and when we did eat bread to the full. For ye have brought us out forth into the wilderness to kill this whole assembly with hunger. He brought us out to kill us with starvation. That's the attitude. Right after he brought them out with all those miracles, they didn't see the food. So they said, we're just going to die. I wish we were back in Egypt. Then the Lord said unto Moses, behold, I will rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them whether they will walk in my law or no. In other words, test them. And it shall come to pass on the 6th day they will be able to gather twice. So on the 15th day of the 2nd month is when God first started raining manna from heaven.
Mm-hmm.
And we are expecting heaven to open up and God to descend and take us. And it's a test. He has been giving us manna, this word, heavenly word, for the last many years. And he's testing who is walking faithfully and who is eating up that manna and trusting in him and having still a good countenance. So every trouble they got into because they were grumbling against God because they didn't trust him. So right after this just shows how little people study these stories on their own. Everybody knows that story. They might not have known it was the 15th day of the 2nd month, second Passover, that it first started raining manna from heaven. But in the next paragraph, they're like, what about the meat? And he says, I'm going to rain down quails every night. So you'll have manna all day, and then you'll eat quails, which is like fried chicken, at night. So if you would ask people, how long did they only eat manna? 40 years, they only eat manna. No, from day one, he also gave them quails. So these are the kind of things where when you're studying the word, you're getting so much more. And that's like he said, let them go out and gather as much manna as they want, but eat it all up. Don't gather and stock it up because it'll rot and it'll get worms. But this guy, he wants a lot, go get it. This guy, he wants a little, go get it. But eat and be at peace with the Lord and appreciate what he's given you. So that's where we're at with this story, is we're hearing every detail. There was 12 wells. There were 70 palm trees. It's the 15th day of the 2nd month. That's when he's raining manna. That's when he's bringing quails. That's when he's telling the whole story. And so in between, I was heading towards this, in between when Moses went up the first time and he came back down, God proposed on Shavuot, and then they said, we can't hear it anymore. It's too loud. It's shaking our Mr. Bones. It's shaking me. Please stop. And so Moses went back. God called him up for 7 and then 40 days and 40 nights. So in between each mountain trip, there's a 7-day period and a 40 days and 40 nights. So for 47. So he goes up on Shavuot, comes back down, goes up for 7 with a group, but then Moses himself goes to the top for 40 days and 40 nights. He comes down at the month of Av with Joshua. This is when they break the tablets. After that fiasco, Moses goes up again to make atonement. And he goes up for 7 days to a certain part of the mountain. Then he goes up to the top for 40 days and 40 nights. He comes down on Day of Atonement with his face shining. This is representing the end of the tribulation when Jesus comes down with his face shining, and they will run from him. Hide us from him who pierced us. So we got a clear Exodus on Passover. Then a clear second Passover, we start raining manna and quail to feed us. Then a clear go up on Shavuot. Then a clear 7 days and 40 days and 40 nights. He's been up and he comes down on the month of Av at the Feast of Wine. And that is when he has the marriage covenant, and they are supposed to drink the wine cup of the marriage covenant. But instead, he breaks the commandments. He burns the golden calf, grinds it up, puts it in the water, and they drink the wine cup of wrath. That's at the 9th of Av when that happened. He goes back up for 7 days with a group of people, eating and drinking, seeing the Lord. Then he himself goes up to make atonement. That Jesus has been gone up to make atonement for us for 40 days and 40 nights. Like you said, the 40 Jubilees, the 2,000 years. And it ends in 2030. So I just wanted to get that off my chest, because everybody is skipping this middle mountain trip, and you can't read the book of Exodus and not count those days. It literally says 7 and 40 days.
It's perfect. And so the sun is basically following the story of what you just shared, because the sun is in Taurus a few days later. But also, I shared this in another live stream too. I'm actually open to the opinion that in John 6, when he was feeding the 5,000, it says that it was around Passover. But I am open to the idea that he was feeding the 5,000 at second Passover, because he talks about Moses. He refers to that very story in Exodus 16 after he feeds them and literally rains bread from heaven. And in John 6, and then and then he says that he is the bread of heaven. And look at this constellation Aries. This is the Lamb, but Jesus said that he is the bread of life in John 6. So it's very, very possible that in John 6 that was second Passover.
That would be so perfect too,
fulfilling Exodus 16, which you just read, which I think it's perfect. Another thing that I wanted to say too, I want to read Matthew 13:47, and maybe a few verses here. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a dragnet which was lowered into the sea and gathered fish of every kind. And when it was full, they dragged it up on the beach, and they sat down and sorted out the good fish into baskets, but the worthless ones they threw away. So it will be at the end of the age, the angels will come and separate the wicked from the righteous and throw the wicked into the furnace of fire. In that place, there will be weeping over sorrow and pain and grinding of teeth over distress and anger. Now, of course, you know where I'm going with this. Look at the picture that we have here. Yep. We've got a separation of fish.
And then 1,000 years later is judgment of those bad fish, the worthless fish that were thrown away. Again, hits perfect. Since every story you read in the Bible that you pay attention to, you will see these exact details, and everything lines up with these appointed times. You understand why our thought process now is, well, this is a pretty big appointed time. We didn't understand it before, so we didn't think it was big, but now we understand this is a really big appointed time. And the underlining truth that is just all over us is God said this generation shall not pass. And then he defines the confines of a generation as 80 years, 70 to 80 years, and Israel is going to turn 75. And why do we know that detail, that Abraham left his father's land at 75? Why do we need to know these details? Because God is always tying these stories together.
As a result of Abraham's age 75, I would say now we're in the go time window based on that. And we are past that 75-year mark, according to the Torah calendar or whatever, or God's calendar. I'll read that one verse.
Which I think God is recognizing both calendars, and he's keeping certain count, strictly by his own count. But the whole thing with the Jubilees, he is going to recognize 50-year periods and 49-year periods from certain times. The whole thing with 490 years, he was recognizing as 10 Jubilees. So we know the 50th year is the Jubilee year, but you count those 49. So I just believe God is keeping track of all the calendars, all the dates. I don't give much respect to the Gregorian date, because that is really the work of man's hands and Satan trying to change times and seasons. So if it comes to an interesting Gregorian date, like this date is Cinco de Mayo. Hey, that's why we're getting raptured, because it's Cinco de Mayo. So I mean that's not the reason. It just happens to be, and I hear they have a great Taco Tuesday up in heaven. So
yeah, the verse I was referring to, Genesis 12, verse 4. So Abraham departed as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. And Abraham was 75 years old when he departed from Haran. But in Genesis 22, I believe, it's when God makes his promise to Abraham. And let me see, where does it say your seed will be like the stars in heaven? Can't find it right now.
But he does say that. He
Oh, there it
says,
is.
look up and count the stars. Go ahead.
Yeah, there it is. Genesis 22, 16, 17, and said, by myself I have sworn, says the Lord, because you have done this thing and have not withheld your son, your only son. Blessing, I will bless you, and multiplying, I will multiply your descendants as the stars
Said in the
of
Bible.
the heaven and as the sand
He didn't say something about me.
which is on the seashore. And your descendants shall possess the gates of their enemies. In your seed, noon. I don't know if that's the Hebrew root is noon, but in your
Yep.
seed, all the nations of the earth shall be blessed because you have obeyed my voice. So Abraham, it's his seed. He's got promises, and we are the seeds of Abraham. And
We are the seed of Abraham.
fish, noon, everlasting life. That's what noon means. And
Yep.
Joshua, son of noon, Joshua, son of fish, son of fish.
I love that one. Yeah, Joshua, whose name means Yeshua. It's the same root word is Yeshua, and he brings the children of the men of war of Israel. So we're considered the children of Israel, and he brings us across to celebrate a Passover, and he is the son of noon. In other words, the son of none. Jesus is the son of none. He's not. It doesn't have an earthly father. Son of none, or son of noon, son of the seed. In Hebrew, they understand that with each verse, there's up to 70 pieces of information that can be brought, because you can look at each individual letter and the spelling and the gematria and the equal letter distance skip, etc. And there's just so much more to dig out of this. So that's what I believe we've been called to do. We want to keep people encouraged and watching, because the prophecy is they will all fall asleep. And then there'll be this great trumpet at midnight, and some of them will wake up ready. But I am determined in my heart and am praying for my Lord to give me strength to do this, not be the one that falls asleep. And all doesn't mean it has to be 100% all, because in the days of Noah, those 8 people knew what was going on, even though it said the world didn't know. None of them knew, right? But the 8 knew. So I want to be a part of the 8 that never falls asleep. So we will look at everything, even if it's outside the box thinking, which that's where we're at right now.
And even the people that say nobody knows the day before, what do they say? Don't look.
Oh,
Yep.
actually, she just brought that up. I just kind of sort of heard her.
That nobody knows.
Well, I think you said it on your last video too. I think we both said it, but in Mark 13, when it's talking about nobody knows the day, the hour, is it Mark 13? I can't remember. But
Yeah.
Later on, it's talking about a man on a long journey. And we've got this journey theme also in book of Matthew. The bridegroom's coming, the virgins are there and all that. But then after that story of this man returning,
And Proverbs.
And Proverbs too. Oh yeah, chapter 7, 19 through 20. The good man comes at the full moon.
Yeah, and so second Passover is full moon.
Okay, let's get that verse actually. Proverbs 7. Where's Proverbs? There it is. 7, 19 through 20. Yeah, for the good man is not at home. He is gone on a long journey. He hath taken a bag of money with him and will come home at the day appointed. When you look at this word,
appointed time.
It means full moon, but the second Passover is an appointed time, so that fits real nice. Matthew 25, we've got the wise and foolish virgins, but then after the wise and foolish virgins, we've got the parable of the talents, and let's read it. For the kingdom of am I showing my screen? I guess I'm not. Am I? Oh, I am. Okay, I got it on. Oops, sorry. Okay. For the kingdom of heaven is as a man traveling into a far country, who
Thank
called
you, Ken.
his own servants and delivered unto them his goods. And this whole story is about a man on a long journey and he's coming back. And there's a little bit of a blessing in verse 23, and then it starts to go south in verse 24. His Lord said unto him, well done, good and faithful servant. Thou hast been faithful over a few things. I will make thee ruler over many things. Enter thou into the joy of thy Lord. And I've done a couple of videos on 23 representing like a lot of good things, and 24 representing a lot of bad things.
Mhm.
24, then he which received the 1 talent came and said, Lord, I knew thee that thou art a hard man, reaping where thou hast not sown, and gathering where thou hast not strawed. And I was afraid. Anyway, there's bad news for this guy. He's mad. He's upset with this guy. He didn't invest. You're in trouble. Okay. So the last positive thing that we heard was in verse 23. And if we go to the book of Daniel, chapter 6.
Yeah, and so you're highlighting the year 2023, there's the last good. And then 24 brings the sword or the bad. And that's what we're saying is this year we have the sign that looks like the rapture. And next year in 24, you got the second part of the Great American Eclipse, followed by multiple mega conjunctions all around that Passover. I mean, something big that looks like nefarious is scheduled for that time. So that again fits perfectly with what they have predicted with the population. They say by the January beginning of the year 2025, the population is already going to be reduced by over 200 million. 200 million people gone next year.
Bad news.
That's pretty scary.
We got to go. Like I said, we're running on fumes. If we go to the story of Daniel, verse 23, chapter 6, verse 23, this is Daniel in the lion's den. Then was the king exceedingly glad for him and commanded that they should take Daniel up out of the den. So Daniel was taken up out of the den, and no manner of hurt was found upon him. Hallelujah. Because he believed in his God. What happens in verse 24? Uh-oh. And the king commanded, and they brought those men which had accused Daniel, and they cast them into the den of lions. Them, their children, and their wives, and the lions had the mastery of them, and break all their bones in pieces, or ever they came at the bottom of the den. So there's another example of 23, positivity.
23 and 24.
24, uh-oh. Genesis 19, Sodom and Gomorrah. Verse 23, we've got lots of positive here. This is when Lot was safe. In verse 23, the sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. Okay, so there's the safety verse. What happens in verse 24? Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord of heaven. I mean, uh-oh, right? Uh-oh. And
The sword is coming, and you know, and that's what we see in Revelation 6. So Revelation 4 is called up.
Mm-hmm.
Revelation 5 is we're singing around the throne. It's a crowning ceremony, and we sing a song. You, the Lamb of God, has redeemed us from every nation and tongue and language and the entire world, not from Israel. So we're clearly in heaven, and the church, the 7 members of the church that the Lord brought out to redeem, that paid for, he paid the price, he served the sentence, he won the war to bring the 7 churches there. They must be present in order for him to open the seals. And no seals have been opened yet until we're there in his presence. Now it's legal for him to open the seals, and he opens the seals, and what are they? The 4 horsemen. And his death and destruction and war and famine. So if we're gone this year, what's next year look like? Exactly what you're saying. 24, destruction everywhere. Can you turn that off?
Yeah.
And you can read Revelation 4 with this picture right here, but let me just show you one more story in my Bible app here before I go back to the stars. What was I going to show? I was going to show Joshua 6. That's what I was going to do. Joshua 6. Okay, so what happens with Rahab and her family? Well, wouldn't you know
She
it?
is rescued and her whole lot.
Yep, everybody's safe in verse 23. And then what happens in 24? And they burnt the city with fire. Ouch. Like, you see the theme here. And there's way more than that, too. But that theme's everywhere. It's all over the place. And now what we could do here is we can read a little bit of Revelation 4.
I'll go to Revelation 4 right now.
Okay. All right.
After this I looked, and behold, a door.
Boom.
There's the door.
There's the door.
Hello, Mr. Door.
What's up,
and
door?
he's highlighted by the sun.
Mm-hmm.
The door was opened in heaven. The first voice which I heard was, as it were, a trumpet, like his horns, talking with me, which said, "Come up hither, and I will shew you things which must be hereafter." And immediately I was in the spirit, and behold, the throne was set in heaven, and one that sat on the throne, and he that sat upon it was to look at like jasper and a sardine stone. That's your rainbow colors. And there was a rainbow round about the throne, in sight like unto an emerald. Round about were thrones, and 24 seats, and upon the seats 24 elders. That's, if you just back up from the whole constellation, you just see everybody is sitting round about him, aren't they? It's like all the constellations are the elders. And there were 7 lamps burning, and 7 thunders, and 7 voices, and on and on. It's just exactly what we should see if we head up that rapture path. And then the sun will move to Taurus, and then we'll see the judgment. And I saw the Lamb. This is chapter 6 now. I saw the Lamb when he opened one of the seals, and I heard, as it were, a noise of thunder, and one of the 4 beasts saying, "Come and see." And I saw, and behold, a white horse. Now we're over at, where is the white horse? He's on the other side. That may be where the moon is during that time, yeah. Saw a white horse, and him that sat on it, and he had a bow, which is a peace covenant, and a crown was given. He had the corona crown given unto him, and he went forth conquering to conquer. And when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, "Come and see." And there went out a horse that was red, and power was given him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. We still have peace on earth. In fact, they're talking about, this great peace that's coming. But when we're gone, peace is going to be gone. Everybody will turn against each other. They're going to take peace from the earth, that they should kill one another. So all your neighbors will turn against you. Anybody that, you've been saving up, even family members will turn against each other. There's not going to be anybody safe that's been prepping. They will take peace from the earth. They will kill one another. And there was given unto him a great sword. And when he had opened the 3rd seal, I heard the 3rd beast say, "Come and see." And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. And I heard the voice in the midst of the 4 beasts say, "A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley." So why is he talking about the wheat and the barley? "And see that you hurt not the oil and the wine." So God is identifying the harvest. He's got the barley, the wheat, the oil, and the wine. Why isn't anybody talking about the oil or the wine? "And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 beasts." Oh, I already read that. "And when he had opened the 4th seal, I heard a voice, and the 4th beast said, 'Come and see.' And I looked, and behold, a pale horse. And his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed." I was trying to say that like Johnny Cash. I'm not doing very good. "And hell followed with him. And power was given over them to kill a 4th part of the earth." To kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with the beasts of the earth. So how much of that in America is going to happen? And that's the same timing of the Great American Eclipse next year. He gave him power over to kill a 4th of the earth. And then when he opened the 5th seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of God and the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, "How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell upon the earth?" White robes were given to them, every one that they should rest. And we could read the whole thing, but the basic premise here is people are now being brought out of the tribulation, that were killed in the tribulation, because the very first part of the tribulation, we're up there, crowning ceremony, God's getting us together, he's opening those seals. The first seal is chaos. Second seal, death. Third seal, more death. And it's just, the earth starts being depopulated for real, right? And this end time. So we know we're not in it yet, but this is the story. And what should the sun and moon and stars show? I would hope the sun would highlight Taurus, and then maybe Saturn and Mars, which are the nefarious planets, they would come into conjunction somewhere, and Michael, would have a war in heaven where Michael and Uranus would be going back and forth before he casts down Satan, you know, and so we haven't looked with detail that far ahead, but we know the very next story, like you have pointed out with the 23 and 24, right after this story is the sword.
You know, that picture that we see in the stars in the Passover time frame of next year, it looks more tribulation-y than it does rapture-y to me.
Yes,
You know,
it is. I mean, seriously, I've never seen that many conjunctions at once. Something gigantic is going to happen, and maybe this, you know, when the Antichrist comes into power, he will also point to the stars, and he'll say, "See, this was the sign of my coming." Like the wise men knew that Jesus was born by the sign they saw in the stars. They also knew Moses. They had seen Moses's sign in the stars. These are different wise men, obviously. But when Antichrist does rise, he's going to have the credentials, and he's going to follow in the footsteps of Christ, and he's going to try to play out the story of the Messiah ben David. You know, we had Messiah ben Joseph, which was the suffering servant, and then the Antichrist is coming as the king, Messiah ben David. So, but he's going to want to prove his credentials. I believe he's going to claim Jewish lineage to the throne. So I think he's going to be a Jew. People have argued that he would be a Muslim or from the descendant of Esau. So I'm not sure about it. Or Ishmael. That could work too. You know, we're all talking about fathers of Abraham, and you know, the Abrahamic house of, you know, hey, we're all worshiping under the same Abraham guy, right? Although they all have different gods with different names. But this Antichrist is going to use the sun, moon, and stars also to verify himself. So when people point out, you know, this and that bad guy was born under a total eclipse or a blood moon or something like that, that is interesting.
And that eclipse next year is in, I don't know, I would say that would be the left behind fish. You
Yeah.
know? So
and
Mhm.
just because I forgot this from earlier,
Mhm.
we are just having a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse, like right in a row, 2 weeks apart from each other, correct?
Mhm.
You know, I can't remember which one came first, but you know, again, with Joel, the sun will turn dark and the moon will not give her light before the great and terrible day. So, you know, we've seen this over and over. We've had eclipses and blood moons and eclipses and blood moons, but now we have two back to back, 2 weeks apart from each other.
Mhm.
Don't you find that interesting?
Well, there's always a 2-week gap between a solar and a lunar eclipse. That's always a consistent thing. But I think what happened here is on April 20th, I think this, if we're following the cycle of a woman, I think if you look at it as the day one, then that would be ovulation time when what would be when Jupiter is in that rapture fish, you know, in that in the line. So here's our eclipse. That was when the eclipse happened right there in Pisces, which is right over nebula IC 153, 153 fish, talked about in John 21. Okay. And approximately 2 weeks later, Jupiter, it's go time, right? When you want to have a kid, you figure out the timing just right. And go time is right here.
2 weeks before your last menstrual cycle.
Yeah. And here's the fish. Here's the seed. That's what noon means. Fish, seed, life. And we all believe as Christians that life happens when the seed hits the egg. And is this not perfect? Is the story not written in our biology? And it's the same thing I shared in a video when salmon procreate. This is what happens. The timing of the egg and the seed coming together is
That part is so great.
so nuts. And it's like creation speaks the whole story. So you look at the stars,
and with that salmon thing, you know, it's like the sun crossed and could represent laying down the eggs, and then Jupiter crosses and lays down the seed, or, you know, just
right.
That whole thing about how the sun goes before us, you know, every
yeah.
time they were going to cross, the Lord would have the high priest go ahead, and
Yes.
they would step their feet in, and then they would bring the ark across, and you know, everything would split. but they would go
Mhm.
ahead.
Yeah.
And in the story of Joshua, it's like, you go ahead 200 or 2,000 cubits or something like that,
Yeah,
that they
exactly.
would go ahead. And so it looks like the sun has gone ahead of us and enlightened the door. And now we are following the processional to the red cord.
Well, think of this. Just like you said, I was just going to bring that up. The story of Joshua and Rahab. So picture Jupiter being the story of Rahab in this circumstance, and she's talking with the two spies, Venus and, I mean, Neptune is here. We can use Mercury if you want. We can go a couple days this way. Talk to the two spies, and then what happens at the river? They send the ark over first, and there's the ark going over
Yes.
the Jordan first, and then what happens later on? Everything's in place.
And
And
she has placed a red cord
yeah,
outside her window, and that's how they knew to save her, was
yeah,
the cord.
yep,
And there's a cord cut with the umbilical.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
remember, that picture of the lamb is not accurate. The lamb's front leg should be laying across that cord. So we are right now where the lamb's leg would be touching, as if he has gathered us in his hand, and he's about to cut that cord.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
And
yeah,
one
so
group's going to heaven, and one's snap being left behind, and the cord's going to snap and chase that left behind fish.
and keep in mind there was a double cord story in that Rahab story too, because the spies, they escaped by climbing down the cord the first time,
Yeah.
but the second time Rahab and her family was saved because she put the cord outside her window.
And I
And
love the story of Rahab, because we're all worried about family, and we all hope that our children, are right in their mind. We teach them as young children, and then they're exposed to all these lies, carefully crafted fairy tales all their life. And sometimes you might not, and then a lot of times kids, when they get between, let's say, about 13 to 30, you don't know if you're getting a nice straight answer from them. And so I just love the story of Rahab. She was faithful, and she got to bring out her whole family and all of her possessions. And so, the righteous can sanctify the unrighteous of their union. Noah was considered righteous, but they didn't say anything about the rest of his family. It's just like, yes, you can bring your whole family. And of course, we know one of them was really not righteous in the son Ham, and he had nefarious plans. So we know that at the rapture, it's like a wedding, and everybody's given a wedding garment. And Jesus told the story of some people being at the wedding, and the master says, "Where's your garment?" And the person had nothing to say. They were silent. They were speechless. And maybe that's somebody we got to bring, and they got to see it for a second. And he says, "Cast them out. There's going to be weeping and gnashing of teeth." So I think at the rapture, some people are going to get to go because of us, and some of them are going to have that moment where they could testify, they could throw their heart on the mercy of the court and be in. And some of them, because of their heart, because he's given them over to their heart's desire, are going to be cast right back out. And I think that's part of what the tribulation is going to be filled with: people that saw stuff, people that were right next to somebody that got raptured, people that were family members, people that perhaps saw heaven for a minute and came back. We have that right now. We have right now, we have people saying, "I died and went to heaven. I died and went to hell. I died." We don't know if any of it's true, but that's if you read the book of Revelation, that stuff's not that outlandish.
So like last week, she got to go with, and
Oh, my wife was mentioned Lot's wife. Lot's wife got to go with, and obviously her heart was back in Sodom, and so they said, "Don't look back," and people knew to fear these angel messengers. You don't mess with them. Even Samson's parents, they thought they were going to die, even though they were safe after he left, and so she said, well, I miss that. And that was her heart's desire. She looked back with longing. She had a chance to be saved, and then she was destroyed, turned to a pillar of salt. So, and we know Lot's daughters weren't weren't the most upstanding citizens with their plan a few days later. So, anyways,
Well,
the thing I started with is I love that Rahab got to bring her other family.
well, the cool thing about Sodom and Gomorrah, that whole story too, is there's a hint of, it says unleavened bread in Genesis 19, and
Yes.
so it's a Passover hint, but it could also be a second Passover hint, because in Numbers 9 verse 11, they shall eat it with unleavened bread. So that's talking about second Passover as well. And
it's still barley season.
It's still
and unleavened bread's always made out of barley.
I can barely stand it, man.
I can barely stand it.
I can barely wait. Jeremiah 38.
Dr. Barley.
Dr. Barley.
Dr. Barley, you want to go out for some barley juice later? Hey, this sounds like a good idea.
Barley juice. Harvest it right. Okay, so Jeremiah 38.
My bladder's about to explode by how much water I've had.
Yeah, I know. I gotta go too.
My wife keeps filling up my water pitcher. So I think we have reached the 10-minute warning.
All right. Yeah. Perfect.
20 minutes to
Excalibur, you are correct, and that is very funny.
We did good
I'm
here.
answering some chat people.
Jeremiah 38. What's his face?
I
Jeremiah was
don't know
dropped.
that verse.
Jeremiah 38 verse whatever it was. Jeremiah was dropped into the dungeon with a cord, and later on, in the couple verses later, he was taken up out of the dungeon with a cord. And if we're looking at the stars once again, we got that same theme again. So Rahab was saved by the cord, and
You turned that light out
Jeremiah was saved by the cord.
or not?
What's your closing thoughts, Dr. B?
Well, we know we're in the end times, without any doubt. We believe in God's word that He said that He would tell us and He would lead us to understand. And the main thing we are really closing our time period on is Israel. Israel's the timepiece. Now, this reminds me of something that I thought of that I thought was pretty brilliant. Since Nebuchadnezzar took them captive, and they never had a land again until 2,520 years later. This brings us to 1948. That's 1260 and 1260. Okay? From that, the story in Daniel says, but the time will go from 1260 and 1260. The second part will go to 1290 and then to 1335. That extra period of time of 30 and 45 is 75 years. So God said from Nebuchadnezzar, 2,520 years later in 1948, He brings them back. But it'll go to 1290, which would have been from 1948 to add 30 years, 50, 60, 78. Isn't that when the Camp David Accords were?
Mm-hmm.
Then He says, blessed is he who comes to the 1335. That's 75 more years. That's right now. So, God didn't give all these dates and numbers and time periods and these exact prophecies for us to say, no, nobody knows the day or the hour. Let's go get a job. I think I want to start selling paintings. That's He gave us for some, the number of wise men was a small group, and they were watching the sun, moon, and stars, and they knew the time of Jesus. And they were off a little bit. They maybe did, they weren't there for His birthday, obviously. They were there when He was a little toddler. And that's why that king at that time killed everybody 2 years and under. But the wise men were called. We are now watchmen. And God said, I will appoint watchmen, and I will set them on that wall, and they will not be able to not speak. It says, how can they but prophesy? How can they but teach what I am showing them? So here we are, and we are trying to find this rapture date. And the more we miss, the more we feel like, what? How am I going to reach anybody? I'm just missing. Maybe I wasn't called for them. Maybe I wasn't. Oh, I'm sorry, for them. Don't bring me into it. It's so weird how it goes backwards and forward. But
Yeah, I know.
Maybe, and this is kind of what I really feel is that we were called for this group of watchmen, for all you all out there that are watching, for this community to keep the spirits lifted as Satan is doing everything he can to kill the spirits. So yeah, we believe this. We have the Bible telling us that this is an important watch time, but we understand if it passes, we look to the next thing. Then you look to the next. Do you skip things? Nope. You just keep looking. But it's just about impossible for us with what we've been through to not kind of struggle a little bit to kind of chew on this. How can this not happen when it looks, I guess we need to find out, is there a story in the Bible where things looked 100% but then ended up being different? Nothing comes to mind when I say that, but I don't know.
I mean, it looked perfect for a few years at this point, so we've been here many, many times looking at a rapture date going, yeah, I'm convinced. I mean, there's moments when I wrote rapture left behind letters and, things of that nature. And I'm sure many people watching these channels have done that too. And I'm sure you're guilty of that. I shouldn't say guilty.
Oh, yeah.
But you know what I mean? I think we've been convinced multiple times. And so the math is just kind of running out here. We're really getting to a point where it's not going to make much sense. We're going to have to just almost reinvent the wheel pretty soon in a way. Like,
and what are your thoughts on the Shemitah?
I've heard so many theories on the Shemitah, so I don't put a whole lot of myself a lot of weight on what year is the Shemitah. But I'll
so
tell
you think it possibly could not be this year? Because I would honestly feel better, because I'm sitting here struggling. How can we be in the Shemitah year and we're not gone? I would love to hear any theory of why we're not in the Shemitah year, because
I love the idea of the Jubilee being at the end, second coming. I love that idea, but I can't really prove that out. But I've seen so many charts and graphs and different people's opinions that when it comes to the Shemitah thing, that I'm like, okay, you know what? Just gonna put that on the shelf for now, that theme, and get back to the basics here. But I love again I tried to I started out the channel thinking that Jesus died in 32 or 33, and then I reevaluated it this year. And I'm like, you know what? 30 AD makes the most sense, and therefore Second Coming makes the most sense for 2030. And then so once a rapture date passes, you got to go back and look at the larger picture again, look at the year count, and really solidify that 30 AD, which I think I've done. I think that I think he did die. I'm going to say like 90% chance he died in 30 AD. I think it makes a lot of sense.
I'm with you.
And so then you build off that. You build off that theme. And then like we did in this video sharing that, there's a natural progression every 2,000 years. So after you get the year, are we in the season? Yeah. So our calendar is correct. Okay. So now what's the best time? What's the best season to get raptured? It's in the spring, Song of Solomon. We're familiar with that, bro. Okay. Like you said in this video. Okay. So we've got the year, we've got the season, we've got the feast. Okay. Now what does the stars look like? Oh my goodness. The man-child is in the fish. What do you do with that? What do you do with that? We got the 23 verses saying it's positive. We got the 24 verses saying it's negative. What do you do with all this information? I can't look past it until if we're here May 10th. Okay, all right. We move on. But
And to your point on this, now, because God is bringing us further and further through the paths of righteousness towards the top. And he leads me in the paths of righteousness, which again, the mountains of Israel, the shepherds would take the sheep around the mountain in paths, and they would eat the grass, and it would leave from far away. It would look like sentences on a book, but they were always leading the sheep upwards, from the bottom upwards, and they were eating this. So we have been learning more and more as we're going, and now we look back and say, oh, you know what? We shouldn't have been looking for something outside of a Shemitah cycle, because obviously, like Pastor Mark Bilt says, the tribulation should be a Shemitah cycle. Now, I'll agree, we might not know the real Shemitah cycle, although the evidence produced by our brother Bob Barber in that long chart where he shows that World War I fits within the exact confines of the second half of a Shemitah. World War II fits exactly within the Shemitah. The work that brother PD did on all of the financial crashes that happened exactly when they should at the end of a Shemitah cycle and starting the first year. We have all this evidence. But yeah, okay, I would love it if there's one more year, if it that is, if we're not raptured, if we say, okay, the Shemitah moved, because I can't understand how the tribulation cannot be a Shemitah. Then you add in what we know now, and we were looking for rapture when the man-child was nowhere near the fish. Now we look back and say, oh, we shouldn't have. It was nice that we were learning, but we shouldn't have been looking for the rapture back then. So at least we're learning from our mistakes, right? And when you found that, oh, the man-child just happened to be right in conjunction with Corona, right before the Corona started. Are you kidding? And then Psalm 120, representing the year 2020, says, deliver me from lies. All of this is a lie. Dear God, deliver me. And we go through the Corona, which is what the Satan will use for his crown. And when he comes to make a peace covenant, it will be around the Corona. So, we've learned so much that now we're a lot more picky with what we look at. We're a lot more discerning. But again, at this point, we can't see how it can pass. How can the man-child pass this pathway? How can the sun, moon, and stars not declare his glory day by day and utter speech night by night and show knowledge? How can, because that's his word. And that's what we keep going back to with the generation of Israel. How can they not be 80? And then we get into the whole thing of, 1948 was prophesied, no doubt. But when did he start counting their years? Was it 1949? Was it 1950? I promise when we're there and we look back, it'll all be perfect. So some people are resistant to looking at things. I can't allow this mind to close off to possibilities when we're in the face of, I know this, Scripture will not bend. Scripture will not ever be proven as inaccurate. So if the Lord said it, it is. So we're at the point of doing our best, and I think we've presented a lot of evidence that makes that should make people feel like, hey, this is exciting, and I'm expecting to go in the next few days.
Yeah, and okay, and Jesus uses fishermen as his disciples. I mean, come on, fishermen, and the church symbol is the fish, and
yes, we're in the age of the fish.
I mean, he gets the temple tax out of the fish. The simple men. He turns the fishermen into fishers of men.
Yeah, why did he go to fishermen instead of hunters of deer?
Yeah, or the people that took care of bulls. No, he it was the fish. It was all focused on the fish. Yep. And he fed 5,000. And another story of 4,000. I mean, there's a lot of fish stories.
Yeah,
everywhere.
It's clearly we're in the time. We're in the constellation. of
in
the
the hot
rapture
spot.
fish, and the man-child's there. I mean,
It's a
come
good-
on.
I know. Come on. Come on. And we're
But
looking at
our
door.
only, as we say, exit clause or escape clause. Talking about our escape, we have an escape clause. Our only escape clause is that Jupiter does not leave that area for a while.
for about a year.
So what we're saying is true. What we are declaring is true. This is the rapture sign. Hang on. Okay? I'm not going to be really down till Jupiter. If we were here and Jupiter was
In Taurus,
out of
yeah.
Aries and in Taurus, I'm like, I would have to start thinking, are we going to go through tribulation?
Earl said one story where things looked one way but turned out another is when Joshua sent spies into the land. It looked bad, except to Caleb.
Ooh. Okay, my buddy Earl chimed in again. And he said one time where a story looked so great, but they brought back an evil report.
It looked bad.
It looked, I'm sorry. He told it the other way. It looked bad, but the truth was good, but they went with the bad story. The spies went into the land and spied out, and they came back with an evil report. So the truth is as God has written it, and it's about trusting and having faith and believing in Him. But the evil report is, well, honestly, it's nobody knows the day or the hour. That's the evil report.
And what was the names of the two spies?
Joshua,
Son
and
of
Caleb,
Joshua, son of Noon.
son of Noon, and Caleb means dog. Is there a little dog in our area?
Yeah.
There is a little dog constellation. Well, Sirius is a little dog right next to Cephas.
Ah,
Caleb
okay.
means dog. Did you know that? It means
I didn't
faithful
know.
dog.
Mm.
Yeah, little dog.
Oh, you're showing
Somebody
a
asked
dog?
where are you at? Somebody asked
Should
for a
we-
little dog. Here's a little dog.
Wait a
His
second.
name is Charlie.
Let me get this. Let me get you bigger there. Hey, Charlie, what's up? You gonna
What's
get
up,
coordinated on the weekend or what there, buddy?
Yeah. Charles. All right, so
Where's
yeah,
this
if you
dog?
go straight up from Rapturefish towards Cephas, right behind Cephas's ear is a little dog, which makes up the Little Dipper.
I don't see no
Where is
dog.
it?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, right there.
Where?
Underneath the dragon. You know, Polaris. Yeah. There's a little dog.
I don't see it. Over here?
Look at Polaris there, right underneath the mouth of the dragon. Where did it go? Yeah, right there. Ursa Minor.
Oh, over here.
Right in the center.
I'm
Look at
blind.
Polaris. Right above the giraffe's head. There you go. That's Polaris. Yeah, that is known as a little dog.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, this is
But,
Ursa.
yeah, the Little Dipper is known as a little dog, and then the Big Dipper is like the bear, right?
I thought this was the little bear, and the other one was the big bear. But okay, all right, that's cool.
Maybe it is a little bear. Looks like a dog. That's a pretty long tail for a bear.
Ursa Minor, I believe that's the little bear.
Oh,
And there's
okay.
the big
I'm
bear.
sorry. Where's the little dog? There's gotta be a little dog somewhere.
Where are you, little doggy? Where are you?
Where are you, little doggy?
I
I'm
have
gonna
some
get
treats
you
for you.
and your little dog.
Here,
Satan
doggy,
is
doggy,
hiding
doggy.
the little dog. Somebody help us.
right.
All right, here's the chat. Hello, all you lovely people, you chatters. All right, you got Lori and Matt and Joe and Mary and Sylvester and Simply and Dapper. And if you guys have a title, I'm just reading the first part. And Carol and Layla and Wade and Rada and Elle and Brenda. Hello, all of you. Thank you for joining us. I hope you have enjoyed this. Anybody see where the dog is?
They're saying Canis Minor.
Our next live is going to be all about the dog.
Yeah.
Call the dog.
Caleb is the little dog, right?
Here's
The dog.
I found it.
Mhm.
I found a
The
doggy.
Caleb's.
I found a doggy.
There he is. Oh, he's over there by Gemini.
He's just camping over
Canis.
there.
Canis something.
Canis Minor. Well, how about that?
Canis, and minor means little, so that is Caleb.
Jesus called
Oh, okay.
That's interesting. You know, Caleb received his land, and Caleb does represent the Gentiles, but he also received his land. He went in on the 9th of Av. That is curious, but that's a minor story. That's a Canis minor story. That's not as good as our major story. So, all right. I
Okay,
guess
bud. Okay, let's take it easy.
we are ending this programming with "Come, Jesus, come!"
Yep, it's the end of the world, guys. Oh yeah. All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Bones. Thank you, Danielle,
Thank you for coming.
speaking into our ears. Sorry about the
Don't
beginning of the
forget-
video.
Cinco de Mayo, rapture.
Yep.
Eat your tacos early.
I will give up on this. The day that I will give up on all this, let me just look at the calendar. I'll give up on this like on that Wednesday, like the 10th, I'd say. May 10th, I'll be like, all right, well.
Wednesday
No.
the 10th, we've passed our window. Yeah.
Then I'll be like,
We've
okay,
crossed the finish line.
let's move on, as of May 10th. So
Yeah.
don't send me a message on May 8th saying, oh, well, no, I'm still aggressively looking,
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it's the thing is, God bless you all for telling us when we're wrong. We appreciate that. Because my life is great. I try so hard to encourage the body, but everybody tells me when I'm wrong. Thank you. That's great. That's excellent.
pretty good.
But and then we got to come back out, and we got to come back out and keep swinging. And you might strike out a lot of times, but once you hit the homer, nobody's going to remember the strikeouts. So
Yeah, we're both batting 0 in
Yep.
theory. But
batting 0, but along the way, wow. What have we learned about the game along the way, right?
well, and doesn't Jupiter look like a baseball?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go with it. Let's go with that.
Wow.
Hopefully there's the bat and there's the ball right there. Hopefully we get the home run happening right here. Well, there you go. All right. I'll press end. Thank you for coming, bro.
Thank you for having me. I'm glad we got rid of the technical difficulties.
Yep. And thank you everybody for
when
coming.
when you repost it, maybe you can trim some of it. I don't know.
I could trim it. The problem is all that chat will just disappear.
Oh no, then don't do
That's
that.
the problem with doing that. So I don't think I'll do that.
Maybe we'll pin a comment that says technical difficulties till minute
Yeah.
8. Was it minute 8 or whatever, or 7?
Yeah. Let's do that.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
I apologize about that.
It's my fault.
Dr. Barry doesn't have the good technology like these things called computers. Dr. Barry has a telephone. It's not a flip phone, but it's like the next step. So it's my fault. And
No, it's my fault. I was sharing the audio of the screen that I was sharing. And that's
but if you had a computer buddy, that probably wouldn't have been that bad.
I know. I'm doing pretty good for not being a techie guy. So
Yeah. All right. Love
Okay,
you, man.
ciao.
Thank
Te
you.
carece.
And I can't wait to rewatch this. So, because I didn't even pay attention to all the chat, and I want to see all you lovely people.
yeah.
So over and out until next time. And I hope to see you not here, not there, in the air.
Hopefully,
Come,
bro.
Jesus, come.
Mm-hmm.
And then go, Jesus, go.
Jesus, go.
Make sure and go get your rapture mugs. Tape sold separately.
Yeah. Get a hockey helmet and put tape on your helmet saying "Rapture."
Uh-huh.
You can do that free of charge with your own gear.
I think my head's getting bigger. This hat keeps wanting to pop off. My hair's getting bigger. Well, I was 10 when I bought this.
Maybe you'll take it up to the clouds with you.
Yeah. See y'all later.
Okay, ciao.
Over and out.